What?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay, we're going to be calling the meeting to order in a few minutes. Let's go, Art. No, that's not. I don't know who she is. She waved the Art. That's all. That's an easier way, correct?
Yeah.
But not, although she wears so many wigs, you never can tell every time I look at her.
What? Listen, I'm here. Just count me in.
Okay. This is our regular commission meeting, Tuesday, September 7th, a little bit later than 7 o'clock. And Roseanne, would you please call the roll?
Okay, 7:57. Mayor Hawkins,
Here.
Vice Mayor Judy Himmelberg,
Here.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Samaria, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. I almost forgot the word. Thank you. I almost forgot the word.
Missing art.
Okay. This is for additions and deletions
Madam Mayor,
at this time.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I
Yes,
would like to,
Mario.
I would like to request that we move item 12E, E as an elephant, after the permit fee schedule. So moving it from 12E to 12B, as we have guests on here for both of those discussion items, so that they can be addressed first, and then we can continue on.
Okay, any objections? Any other additions or deletions or withdrawals to the agenda?
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry, Mario, you said you want to move 12E after what?
Move 12E
After
as an
12A.
elephant after
Oh.
12A.
Gotcha. Well, B was mine. If you want to move it ahead of that to get them out sooner, I'd be okay with that. If you want to move it higher.
He did.
I mean,
No, he did.
okay, so it's after A?
That's the request.
It's under A.
After A, I'm sorry, I misheard what you said, sorry about that. Yeah, I want to know, I would like to ask the commission if they would have any interest in moving 12F as Frank to the consent agenda to read last year. The holiday decorating board, we want to get it off the agenda. We can move it on to consent unless anybody wants to discuss it.
Any comments on that?
So I'll make a motion to move 12F as in Frank to consent.
I would actually prefer to speak on that. So I would
Okay, well then.
prefer not to move it to the consent agenda.
Okay, so how many people want to move it and how many people don't want to move it?
Well, I think if anybody wants to speak on it, we should allow anyone to speak on any item if they want to. If you want to take it to a vote, I guess we can outvote Ginny, but if Ginny feels strongly enough to speak on it, I would be happy.
Yeah, I don't think we usually vote on that. It's just if anybody objects, we put it on.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Kennedy. If there's a commissioner that wants to
Yeah.
talk on it, I think we should
Yeah,
talk
on
on it.
any item, I think we should do that.
All right, let's talk about it.
Okay. Everybody agree with the additions and deletions to the agenda?
Yeah.
Say aye, aye. Okay, we have two presentations. And Commissioner Gonzalez will do the
Hold on.
first proclamation.
Hola, buenas noches.
Now,
What was that?
What did you say?
I said, hola, buenas noches. All right, here we go. Celebration.
National Hispanic Heritage Month, celebrando el mes nacional de la herencia hispana. Whereas each year the United States observes National Hispanic Heritage. What did I do? Heritage Month by celebrating the culture, traditions, and countless contributions of citizens and residents whose ancestors came from Spain, Cuba, amen, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And whereas what began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Johnson and was expanded by President Reagan in 1988 to the month-long celebration. And whereas Hispanics and Latinos served as civil rights leaders and community organizers, politicians, soldiers, educators, journalists, first responders, pioneers in the arts and sciences, healthcare, professionalisms, athletes, inventors, entertainers, and more. And whereas locally, Hispanics and Latinos from diverse cultures contribute to the vitality of the village of Biscayne Park as residents, community activists, board members, volunteers, staff, administration, police, elected commissioners, and one former mayor. Who's that? Sorry. Oh, and whereas people of Hispanic origin are the nation's largest ethnic of racial minority, constituting 19% of the nation's total population, and Hispanics are 27% of Florida's total population, and more than 40% of the population of the village of Biscayne Park is Hispanic. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Virginia O'Halpin, over here to the right, Mayor of the village of Biscayne Park, Florida, by the entire commission, do hereby proclaim September 15th
To October 15th.
2021 as
Hispanic Heritage Month.
Month,
El mes de la herencia
hispana,
and
and
encourage
encourage
observation of this special annual tribute to celebrating the generations of Hispanic Latino Americans who have positively influenced and enriched our American society and our community here in Village Biscayne Park. Dated this 7th day
of September 2021, Village of Biscayne Park, Florida. Amen. Over and out.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez.
My pleasure.
Proclamation on the remembrance of September 11th. Wait. Proclamation of the remembrance of September 11th, 2001. Whereas on the morning of September 11th, 2001, terrorists ruthlessly attacked the United States at multiple locations, leading to the immediate death of nearly 3,000 innocents from the United States and from more than 90 different countries and territories. Whereas in response to the attacks, good people from private and public sectors, police officers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, physicians, nurses, military personnel, and other first responders immediately and without concern for their own well-being, heroically rose to service, attempting to protect the tens of thousands who narrowly escaped with their lives, and others still at risk from the attacks. Whereas in the aftermath of the attacks, thousands of people volunteered to help in the search, rescue, and recovery of victims lost in the terrorist attacks. And whereas many witnesses to these horrific events, first responders, Rescue and recovery workers and volunteers, as well as survivors, continue to suffer from serious medical illnesses and emotional distress related to the physical and mental trauma of the September 11th attacks. Whereas hundreds of thousands of brave men and women continue to serve every day, having answered the call to duty as members of the United States Armed Forces, while thousands have given their lives or suffered injuries to defend our security and prevent future terrorist attacks. And whereas the entire nation witnessed and shared in the tragedy of September 11th, 2001, and whereas September 11th, 2021 marks the 20th anniversary of this heinous terrorist attacks and provides an occasion to reflect on those events and the countless sacrifices related to them. Now, therefore, I, Virginia Rohalp, and Mayor of Village of Biscayne Park, joined by the entire commission, do hereby recognize the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks. We offer our most sincere condolences to the families, friends, and loved ones of the innocents who lost their lives that day. And we honor the heroic service, actions, and sacrifices of first responders, public officials, volunteers, and others who came to the aid of innocent victims. Further, we take this opportunity to recognize the valiant service, actions, and sacrifices of the United States Armed Forces, intelligence agencies, diplomatic services, Homeland Security, and law enforcement personnel, and the families who support them, for they give so much, including life, well-being, to support the causes of freedom and to defend the security of our country. Dated the 7th of September, 2021. And just to let everyone know that Saturday from 11 to 1, we will be having a service at the Rec Center Park that Commissioner Samaria is heading up. So please join us Saturday. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
I like if you can comment and include in 9/11 part of the 13th brave soldiers that were killed in Afghanistan. I think I would like to honor those victims too.
Well, we honor all our military, and people are still dying. My daughter was at St. Patrick's Cathedral last week for one of our fallen police officers whose lungs were damaged so severely, and he finally died last week. And they did a beautiful service at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. He was a New York police officer. Thank you. Public comments on agenda items. I'd like to open the floor up to any public comments on agenda items. If anybody wants to speak on those, please. Okay, Jane Anderson, I see.
Go ahead.
Janie, go ahead.
Janie Anderson, 11th Place and 119th Street. On the driveway swale changes, first of all, I really believe that if the 50% deterioration rule, as well as the swale maintenance rule, is stringently enforced, I should say, you're going to see about 50% less problems. And stringent enforcement of those two aspects are going to be absolutely crucial to the success of the changes you're trying to make. The maximum size, setting a maximum size regardless of percentage, I see even P&Z disagreed with that. That seems to be overly restrictive. I mean, if we stick to the percentage, it keeps things in check, but it allows people some leeway. I mean, every lot is such a different size. Everybody's needs vary. I think if we go down now to a max size and not just a percentage, you're really kind of tying people's hands. I do appreciate the four of you, though, who agreed that driveways need to be all of one material, not a patchwork, and the work needs to be done all at one time. As far as making the swale parking area only pervious, that would seem to contradict making the driveway all one material, because your approach comes over the swale and you can park on that area. Then there's the guest parking passes. Oh, I sure hope that's a hard no real fast. I'm not even quite sure where you guys would be going with that. I mean, we certainly wouldn't be wanting to regulate how often someone can have company if the company needs to park on the swale, or that they can't have last minute company because they didn't get the parking passes. And then there's the part about limiting swale development and landscaping and defining materials and width. All we have to care about is that driveways are visible and corners are visible. Beyond that, we've never been a cookie cutter community. Why would we want to tell people what they can or cannot put in their swales? Going over to the permit fee increases. I hope you guys are going to give this some long thought. It would have been great to see a chart comparing other cities, because some of these upticks are like rather egregious. You figure to go in front of P&Z, that's a 600% increase. That's $25 to $150. Now I understand when you pull your permit, that $150 will be credited, but I'm guessing not everybody goes through P&Z and then finishes the project. Are we saying that it takes $150 of staff time for everything that goes in front of P&Z? The base permit fees going up 50%. I'm sorry, more than 50%. Then there are several categories like pools, roofs, windows. There is not a current existing fee listed, so there's nothing to compare it to. And one that kind of caught my eye real quickly, there is now going to be a minimum electrical permit fee. 2 years ago, we redid 2 of our bathrooms. And even though there was no electrical work being done because we had to take the wall down to the studs, my contractor said we had to pull a permit, fine, pulled it, paid for it. I'll never forget the electrical inspector coming in here, looking around and saying, why am I here? You didn't do any electrical work. Okay, yeah, I know that. I told that to everybody. So now this unneeded permit would be even more expensive. I think we need a process in place. We want to encourage what we're seeing here. We want to encourage improvements, and we need a more clear process that doesn't do to people what in that case was done to me, but now at a much higher cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexander Bernhardt, you want to speak?
Yes, can everybody hear me?
And then I see, yes.
Hold on, let me see. I don't know if, should I use the microphone here?
We hear you fine this way. Talk the way you are.
Okay.
Yeah. They hear him on this microphone, on Tim talking.
You can hear me? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Bob? I'll just speak loud.
We
Okay.
hear you fine.
Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to start off with some comments on, oh, by the way, Alexander Bernhardt, 1015 Northeast 120th Street. I wanted to start off with driveways and swales, personal views, minimum parking spaces tied to the number of bedrooms. This is not standard anywhere, really. I'm not really sure where that comes from, and I don't think we should be forcing homeowners to develop what in many cases is going to become non-permeable surfaces. I don't really understand the justification requiring a minimum number of spaces, tying it to the number of bedrooms in the house. So we really shouldn't be forcing homeowners to add parking spaces based off the number of bedrooms in their house. With regards to swales, they are a critical element of the villages, and out of the very limited options we have for stormwater management, swales are one of them when they're not developed. So while the groundwater table, I can't hear myself anymore. I think somebody turned off their mic. While the groundwater table might be higher in some areas of the village than others, keeping the swales permeable is the first line of defense that we have against flooding. So we really need to keep them as permeable as possible. Parking should be allowed on the swales for a temporary basis. If there's a guest, I don't think we need to be requiring somebody to have a pass or anything like that. But that's only on temporary basis. People shouldn't be allowed to park there permanently. It compacts the soil and then it's unable to drain afterwards. So that should be, there shouldn't be maybe limited cases where the swale is the only place that you can park. If there's some property in the village that maybe the swale is the only place you can park. I don't know if that exists, but if it does, maybe some exceptions could be made. But otherwise, that shouldn't be a permanent parking space in most cases. Let's see, if any current swales come out of regulation due to whatever ordinances are adopted, that should be either proactively mitigated by the village or at the very least removed when the driveway needs to be renovated. Permitting fees. This is something that I just happened to see before I came in. I'm glad I looked at it. There are a lot of red flags here. This is something I will talk about from the ecology board as well, but on a personal note, I do think that we should be encouraging things like energy efficiency improvements, solar. You'll see here on solar, if you look at, I hope everybody reads this very closely. Okay, so they want to raise our permitting fee for solar to $325. It's the highest fee on the schedule. It makes no sense. We should not be charging people anything really for solar, but especially not having the highest fee. Let's see, charging people $115 for an alarm system in the house. There are a lot of do-it-yourself systems. I don't see any reason why we're charging people money to put an alarm system in their house. Makes no sense. Portable storage containers, having a 14-day maximum. Would you like me to, Ms. Mayor, would you like me to stay up for the report for the ecology board since that's the next? Okay.
Thank you. I believe Bob Anderson. Next.
I'm trying to unmute. Okay, I'm unmuted. Good. I think on the permit fees that has been brought up previously by one of the other speakers, that we need to hold off for this month. And I think we need to get presented to commission and the residents need to be presented a comparison to some of the local communities of what these permit fees are. An example like El Portal. So we're not just blindly going after these tremendous cost increases. Parking on the swale. We already have an ordinance that you got to maintain your swales. And if, temporary parking on the swale, if it tears it up, that homeowner needs to repair it and put it back per our ordinance that already exists. So I think to have a temporary permit, if you happen to have a party or something, when having a car or so parked on your swale, I think it's an overkill, way of an overkill. We need to go ahead and pay attention to what properties look like and what the swales look like, and let's go ahead and start enforcing the existing ordinance so they're maintained properly. If you walk around the village, you see swales that obviously cars are being parked there all the time. You either have ruts, dirt, nothing growing there. Enforce it. Let's go after the enforcement of our existing ordinances before we add more that probably won't bother being enforced anyway. Let's just stay with what we have right now and see how it works out. Thank you.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Mayor?
Hi, are there any other public comments?
We have Barbara Watts. She sent an email that wants to be read into the records.
Wonderful.
I'm asking your
Do you want me, Barbara Watts submitted something to be read?
Yes, please.
Do you have it? I'll read it.
Yes, I have it here. You want me to send it?
I'm sorry?
To read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, read it. Go ahead.
Okay. Greetings all. Please see attached open letter to Airbnb founders with suggestions. I have copied the letter published this past summer and will paste it below along with the direct link. Truly, we need to up our fee for running a business from one's house. For those who live elsewhere and the entire premises, the business fee should be larger and the owner should forfeit the homeowner's tax exemption. Perhaps make the fee a rolling one based on rental income. Having rental units within the house or on the property should be taxed in a different way with a conventional business from home business, or the fee should be different. It's one thing to spend the day on one's home computer working for clients that seldom, if ever, come to the house. It's quite another thing to have an endless succession of itinerant visitors that one does not know. We must do whatever we can to curb the takeover of our village by investors. If not, BP will soon become a village of rental properties owned by corporate entities, large and small, and no longer be the village of homes that has been its brand for decades. Do everything you can to minimize the pernicious effects of the Tallahassee mandate. Again, sorry to send this at the last minute. Please have this email read at tonight's commission meeting and have the text of the essay entering into the public record. I've been up working since 4 a.m. Have a bunch of teaching items to do that should have been written and posted earlier today, which is to say I might not join tonight's meeting via Zoom. My copy-paste version of the letter below has not really worked. Please open and read the letter through the link. Best wishes to all.
Okay,
Read the letter as well?
okay.
All right.
I think we have a Mike that would like to speak. I don't know who Mike is. Okay, he's unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Would you, yes, would you introduce yourself, your name and address? And remember, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Mike Stosky. I'm at 1200 Northeast 121st Street. I just had a few things to go through. The very first thing was, I guess I could go with the swells. Honestly, I have not seen a swell throughout Biscayne Park at all. All I see is a continuation of yard. A swell is typically like a trough system that is in the landscaping along the streets. But besides that, I think if there's people that's parking in the swells or in a yard, they should be fined. And obviously code enforcement's not gonna enforce this, especially after hours. So I think the police should enforce that. The next couple of things are tree plantings. I know you guys discussed in the last meeting, contractors planting the trees. I'm not sure why the Park and Recs department is not planting the trees instead the contractors. It'll save you guys a lot in budgets. The next thing are the pool hazards. I wasn't sure if you guys talked to like the health department, because I would think that they would have jurisdiction over the unmaintained pools for the violations.
It must be a health department. I don't think we have one.
And then the for the sanitary people, the great waste. I noticed this past week they were throwing the recycling and trash in the same truck. I wasn't sure if you guys can find them or they give you a reduction on your payments to them whenever they do that, and then we can put that money into a fund that can help the community somehow. I probably have like 1 minute left or anything or something. So really quickly, storm drainage. I was wondering if you guys have a comprehensive plan for the entire community for storm drainage, and or are you just piecemealing everything together? Because on the budget it has all these different numbers, but they went very, very quickly through that, so I wasn't really sure how you guys were going through this, because eventually the entire community will need storm drainage. So I wasn't sure if there was like a 10 or 20-year plan that you guys had for that. And I'd be all for like a tax increase if you guys included that along with sewage lines, so we could reduce all the septic tanks and lighting throughout, because the streets are pretty dark at nighttime for when people are walking out on the streets.
Thank you. Can you finish up your thought?
There was one thing outside the scope. I know Biden just passed a bill granting communities that reduce carbon emissions. I wasn't sure if you guys looked into that and seen any type of possibilities there to get funding for carbon or reduce carbon emissions. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll be having a report on the trees in a little while. So is any of the I'm going to close public comments. Any of the commissioners have anything to add to any of the people?
Yes, I do. I have a question.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I'd like to ask Alex. Alex, can I ask you a question? Can you go back to the mic? Yeah.
From where you're at.
He doesn't, he speaks right on his computer. It's okay.
Okay, whatever. Alex, you mentioned the fact that
whatever.
you didn't think that.
Alex, you mentioned the fact that was a necessary requirement for properties, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that what you said, or?
No, the minimum number of spaces.
Minimum number of spaces, okay. So let me retract that. So you don't think that a minimum amount of spaces is required for any particular property, right? So if it's a 10-bedroom house, you don't care how many spaces they have. Or if it's a 2-bedroom house, you don't care how many spaces. I just want to understand your thinking behind it, because obviously, I don't know if you know this, but I'm in the parking business, right? So I understand how parking works. So when you construct a hotel or you construct a building, there are certain requirements as far as parking is concerned. And for me, that also translates to housing. I just want to understand your thinking about how you see parking related to property. So if you don't mind expanding on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, the mayor will allow me to respond.
Yes, no, I'm asking you, so go ahead.
It's a couple of things. So basically.
Go ahead.
Commissioner V can unmute himself so that we can hear.
Mario is asking you to unmute yourself, so maybe you go to the mic like I asked initially.
Okay. You can hear me? Okay. So yeah, with regards to the minimum number of spaces, it has to do with forcing a homeowner to develop a part of their property that they might not want to develop. So let's say my house has 4 bedrooms. I only have 1 car. Why would I want to have a minimum number of parking spaces if I only have 1 car? So you're basically forcing a homeowner to pay extra to have extra parking spaces that they don't need or don't want. So it's adding development, adding non-permeable surfaces where they might not be needed. If another homeowner moves there later on and they need extra parking spaces, they get a permit and they put it in. But there shouldn't be, and it's not standard practice anywhere that I know of, that you have a minimum number of parking spaces per the number of bedrooms in your home. Maybe you want to set a minimum of 1, but it shouldn't be tied to the number of bedrooms. It's just not a normal thing. It's not something that I've seen in other places. Maybe commercial is one thing, but residential is different. Yeah.
All right. I actually have a neighbor who has no parking spaces, which means he's parking on the swale constantly. And to me, that's an issue. I don't address it with him, but it's up to code to eventually address it with him. As far as Barbara Watts and her comment about the homeowner's exemption, if anybody knows of a property that's being used as an Airbnb Those people are not allowed the homeowner's exemption on their taxes. They need to be paying full fare. So please let Dade County know if a property is being used as a rental. Because if it's being used as a rental, number one, the village gets a little piece of that with a rental permit fee. And the taxes go to full amount. And as far as the Swales being a trough, Mike mentioned it. I think that's against our codes as we stand now. I do not believe that. And as far as the tree plantings being done by planning and zoning, I believe that the grant has requirements on who can do the planting. And for that many trees, I think it's too much for our people to do it. Okay.
Yeah, let me just say thank you to the residents who always come and show up, and I always appreciate seeing some fresh faces here as well. Mike, I don't know you, but I appreciate you chiming in on a couple of topics. We'll be addressing some of those things tonight, and they come up very regularly, so I hope to continue to see you at upcoming meetings so you can join us in these conversations.
Mayor, you're muted. No one can hear you.
Are there any other commission reports, village commission reports? Okay, Vice Mayor Hammelberg.
As I mentioned at the beginning of my term, that our use of attorney's time is very precious. Even though we have a flat rate for our services, I think it's very important for people to understand that when we use more services, then the next time our billing comes around, we pay more, which is what's been happening. I would like to have this commission discuss maybe at the next meeting what we can do to limit commissioners' times with the attorneys. We have some people who use more of the attorney's times than all the other commissioners together. And I think that we need to be limiting. I think we need to be limiting the time we spend with the attorneys, and therefore we can limit our costs. I don't think our attorneys should be working for nothing. I think it's important that they get paid properly. But I think if we're into conservation and saving the village money, we need to start with what we're spending of the village's money. Thank you.
Commissioner, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other?
Comment.
Commissioner Samaria?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. I agree with the Commissioner. I was going to mention at the end of the meeting that I was going to have this as an agenda item at the October meeting. So just to let you know that I am gonna, what she's talking about is exactly, what the commission is talking about is exactly what I like to have a discussion on at the next meeting. Thank you. It's gonna be an agenda item that I'm gonna put on.
Are there any other commission comments or reports? I'm sorry? All right, Commissioner Kennedy.
Zoom was giving me challenges. Real quick response to Judy and Dan. I'll be interested to see your agenda item in October. That should be fun. Yeah, a couple of reports. So one thing, we're all aware that boards, we have these boards in the village, and they all have the ability to submit reports to us at every commission meeting. Their reports used to be buried way at the end of the agenda, and when we redid our meeting protocol a few months ago. What's the matter, Jim? Can you not hear me? Oh, sorry, I'm looking at you guys. We changed our meeting protocols and moved the board reports up. So I sent an email out to the board chairs, reminding them that we value their input because they often are our first line of defense against challenges that we're having. They see things. we have 2 board members here with us tonight. And when they attend meetings, they see patterns and problems that they can identify for us. So I just reminded the board chairs that they have the ability to report to us directly. And I encourage them to do so. 2 of them do have things on the agenda tonight. I'm not claiming responsibility for that or trying to take credit for it in any way, but I do value the boards and the work they do for us. And when we're allowed to ask them for help on things, but they're allowed to come to us with suggestions and point out shortcomings. So I'm glad that they're doing that, and I hope to see that continue. The other thing is, Mario has his report coming out here. And Mario, hope you're going to give us an update on the printing of the door hangers and median signs that we approved a couple of meetings ago. Our communication problems in this village, sitting in this log cabin and communicating on a variety of topics to our residents is still abysmal. And we authorized Mario to take a big step forward to get more people to sign up for emails. And I'm hoping we get an update from Mario tonight. The other thing is, Mario, just want to say this, and you can address it if you want to or not, if you don't want to. But I hear from residents all the time with a number of issues and complaints and suggestions and all kinds of things, good and bad. And often they are related to things that we have talked about at the meeting here. And then they feel like sometimes these things just are talked about. The door hangers, median signs, I'll just give that as one example. We talk about them and then they never hear about them again. And then until they contact one of us, I assume they contact you guys as well. And ask, hey, whatever happened about blank? You guys talked about it, and now I don't know what's going on. I would like to maybe in a suggestion, Mario, if something on these meeting agendas could be like a quick status on the ongoing items that are going on in the village, that could be on the agenda, maybe not presented verbatim, but at least on there so people could look at the agenda and get a quick update, because they feel like we're working on things and then they're dropped until it comes up again in the future. I get questions about the land development code that we're working on, the rec center plan, things that are on the agenda tonight, the trees, whatever happened to those trees you guys were going to plant, and people feel like they're just not clued in. So I'm hoping, I would like to be able to see some kind of regular status on the ongoing things take place. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments from the commission? If not,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent.
Commissioner Sumerian.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I mean, hopefully we're gonna get through this meeting because I have my 3 grandkids living with me, so I'm gonna.
You're making a motion for what?
The consent agenda.
Oh, well, we didn't get to there yet, okay? Okay, we are having board reports. And I would like to call on Barbara Kuehl first, head of Parks and Parkways. Barbara, can you unmute yourself? Barbara, can you, okay, you're unmuted.
Just a quick report about the new grant. The board, Park and Parkways, picked substitutes for the trees that they were unable to get. The county needs to approve those trees, and they also need to approve the budget changes that were made. When we know when the trees will be installed, I'll be checking the stakes. Some of them have been knocked down. I don't know if anybody noticed, because it was such a long time since the stakes were put in. The rain has washed away some of the markings. I'll double check and I can fix that. The locations, before the trees are planted, the locations are going to have to be checked for utilities. That was usually something done by the contractor. And when the county approves the new trees, then we'll add the species to the press release that has to go out to every house in the village. The manager said he was going to be handling that. And if you have any other questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them about the grant.
Does anybody have any questions for Barbara on the commission?
No, I'd just like to congratulate Barbara on all the work that you do on the board. And I usually attend the meetings, but it's because it's at 3:30 and 5 o'clock. I don't get a chance. I missed the opportunity of seeing it. So continue with the good work. That's all the comments. And I want to say that for all of you.
And Barbara, I want to thank you very much for keeping us all in the loop. Appreciate it.
Keeping us in the loop. Barbara,
Oh,
we
the
all
loop.
thank you.
Okay.
You're doing a
Okay.
great job. Okay?
Jenny, I have a question for Barbara. Barbara, are you still there? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Barbara, unmute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Hi, Barbara. Thanks for coming in last meeting and addressing this with us and helping to get this done. Two quick things for you. One is regarding last year's trees and the report that the village has to turn into last year's vendor regarding the warranty on the tree. So just to remind everybody, we have a 1-year warranty on the trees. One tree died, several are ill, some are leaning. Barbara, I know that Public Works is taking care of this, and you were copied on that. Are you satisfied with what they're claiming back from Country Bill in terms of getting last year's trees, everything corrected before our deadline?
The only thing I know is I received an email from Albert, the Public Works Manager, and he said that two of the orange geigers, one was leaning, the other was infected with some bug, and one of the ball cypress that had died needs to be replaced at the bridge. But back in June, I sent out an email that there were a few trees leaning. I sent the addresses of the trees, and they needed to be restaked. And at the Park and Parkways meeting, the village manager said that he was going to go back to John Allred from Country Bills to address that because it was still under the warranty. I don't know if anything's been done. I mentioned it again to Albert, but I haven't heard anything back.
Okay, Barbara, would you do us a favor and find that email with the list of the trees that are crooked and forward it to all the commissioners so we have it as well? I think the deadline is it tomorrow for us to claim any problems with last year's? Okay, would you mind finding that email and forwarding it to Albert and Mario and the commission so we can all see it as, look, we spent a lot of money and a lot of, sweat equity on your part of the boards for last year's grant, and I don't want to see us start losing trees because we didn't cross T's and dot I's. Would you do that for us?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then my other question for you is last year's contract with Country Bill, and we're going to be voting on using them again this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Last year's contract included 1 year of watering. Is that correct?
Yes.
And they guarantee the trees for 1 year. This year's contract only includes 3 months of watering, which will end in the middle of our dry season. Are you, as the chair of Parks and Parkways, are you comfortable with us taking on the responsibility of watering those trees at the end of the first 3 months?
Honestly, that's something the village manager is going to have to just figure out who has the manpower to do it. I don't know what type of the employees they have. I mean, we're down one employee now because when Caesar left, he wasn't replaced. So we are missing a person. I can tell you that last year, when we had the contract with Country Bill, this was his watering schedule. It was every day for 2 weeks, every other day for 2 months, and after that, weekly is needed. I think what they have now, and again, there were a lot of things back and forth, a lot of changes. I think John Allred's proposal was 5 days a week for 1 month, which came to $7,000. 2 days a week for 2 months, which came to $5,600. And that was a total of $12,600. And honestly, the most critical time is the first 3 months.
Right.
That John Allred was nice enough to send something from the University of Florida, and it showed that if you want trees to really thrive, you have to water them almost constantly the first 3 months. After that, the weekly watering or just catching up with it seems to be okay. But if you want a tree to survive, they suggest just watering it twice a week and it'll survive, but it's not going to flourish.
Got it.
So you know, again, I don't know what the weather's going to be like. We have a watering truck, and I don't know what the employee schedule is and what
Okay.
they're used for.
Well, that's coming up here in a little bit, so we'll ask about it at that point. I just wanted your input on that. And Barbara, remind us, what month were the trees planted last year? I want to say it was June or July.
When were they planted?
Yeah, last year.
They started planting on September 8th.
September 8th. Okay, great. So about the same time. Okay, very good. Thanks, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Barbara. Any other questions? We'll open it up to another board head, is Alexander Burkhardt.
Okay, I'm unmuted, so I hope everybody can hear me. On August 17th, we had our second ecology board meeting. We discussed a community outreach initiative relating to ecology, sustainability, resilience, including proposing to the commission the creation of a page within the village website that would serve as a simple educational tool for residents and regarding best practices on things like energy conservation, waste reduction, water conservation. And we had a second discussion on swales and driveway ordinance. And we just wanted to clarify a couple of points. One was that we talked about approved driveway materials, one of which was permeable pavers. We voted on these items. And the other was in terms of the approved, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. So we talked about having a minimum size of the gravel of 3/4 inch. That actually, what it does is it increases the drainage, and it also keeps it from getting too compacted when cars are parking on top of it. So it'll also help P&Z in improving surfaces. With regards to eliminating the use of asphalt, we just wanted to clarify a couple of things there too. So promoting the use of permeable surface, keep in mind, this is not going to affect ADA compliance or accessibility for residents that have special needs. We're not going to take that option away. We're not proposing to take anything away that would allow for ADA compliance. And in some ways, it actually provides an extra level of safety since asphalt gets extremely hot. If somebody, an elderly person falls on asphalt, it's actually going to be about 25% or 20-30 degrees higher than non-asphalt. So the simple scientific fact at the end of the day is that permeable surfaces are going to reduce flooding impacts in the village. That was it, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. We will now take your motion, Commissioner Samari, for the consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, Mario. Do you have a report to give?
Just a couple items, Mayor. First and foremost, thank you to the commission and to the department heads again with regards to the budget. It's a long and tedious task, so I do appreciate everybody. With regards to the commissioner's request on the signage, we obviously had various delays when it came to COVID. There was some material that I needed to take a look at before approving. We've got that information on hand and we're moving forward. So we're waiting for the mock drafts before we get everything printed, and then we'll be able to make those deliveries. There are several items on the agenda tonight that I am happy that we are addressing and discussing on to move this forward. Come October, just FYI, you'll also be seeing a couple different items as it relates to the ARP funds. So I look forward to those as well. And I want to thank my staff for all the hard work that they've been putting on for the past couple of weeks and being able to fill the gaps where they have needed to be filled. I really appreciate the support that I have from my staff, and I'm happy to see that the culture within the village is becoming more and more positive by the day. So thank you all for everyone for your help and support. And that is all. Oh, I'm sorry. The village also applied for a grant with the state earlier this month. I guess it's the 7th. Yeah. So earlier this month, I want to thank the chair of the ecology board, Alexander Bernard, for his assistance in that. I'll keep the commission and the village updated as to how that moves through the system for any grants that we may receive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mario. I apologize for skipping over you, Valerie. Do you have a report at all?
Mayor, just briefly, because Mr. Dion is not here and he has more details, but I just wanted to give a quick update. My understanding is that on the FAA matter, the briefs have been moved the due date to November, so that's been postponed. Where the town of Surfside was one of the lead local governments in terms of that petition against FAA, and as a result of the Surfside tragedy and the collapse, they have requested an extension. So the new due date for the brief is November. Upon Mr. Dion's return, he may be able to provide more details, but at least it's some preliminary information.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Valerie. I'm sorry, real quick question. Valerie, explain to us what that means, the deadline for briefs. What does that mean exactly?
Like I said, I've not been intimately involved in this. It's been Mr. Dion, so I don't know the specifics other than I know that the due date has been postponed. So it's just moving the date back. But when he is.
That's something that the municipalities are filing.
Correct.
Got it.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. Okay, Commissioner Samari, you will make a motion for the consent
I'd
agenda?
like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Okay, Vice Mayor Hammelberg seconded it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Ordinance 2021-07, pool water and maintenance, second reading. Valerie?
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending section 11.9 swimming pools of chapter 11 accessory structures of the Biscayne Park Land Development Code to provide for maintenance standards and requirements for swimming pool water, providing for additional materials to be utilized in the construction of perimeter fences, providing for enforcement, providing for penalties, providing for imposition of liens, providing for abatement, and amending section 18.3, responsibilities of owners, occupants, and users of construction sites for security and maintenance of chapter 18 of the Biscayne Park Land Development Code entitled Construction, to require that all swimming pools located on an unoccupied property within a construction site be covered by a wood cover or maintained to meet the water clarity standards, providing for enforcement, providing for penalties, providing for the imposition of liens, providing for abatement, providing for inclusion in the code, and scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. So as everyone recalls, this will already come before the commission for second reading. However, because the changes that were agreed to modify the title, it had to be re-advertised. So it's back before you again, now properly advertised and publicly noticed. This provides that if a construction site is unoccupied, then the swimming pool can either be maintained with the water clarity standard, or it can be drained and covered. So it provides the two options, which was the consensus of the commission at the last meeting.
Okay, is there any public comments on 2021-07? Okay, seeing no public comments, are there any discussion with the commissioners? Okay, Roseanne, can you do a roll call, please?
Jenny?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Nicely done, guys. Valerie, thanks for catching that for us.
Thank you very much, Valerie. Great job.
Okay. Thank you. Resolution. Interim local agreement with Miami-Dade County. Valerie, would you like to read that?
Yes, this is resolution 11A. A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving an interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County for the provision of on-demand public transportation services and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion on that?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the local agreement with Miami-Dade County and demand services.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Mario.
Thank you very much. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission, this item is connected to the next item, which is the on-demand freebie passenger shuttle as well. What this resolution does is approves the interlocal agreement because none was previously established with the county to provide for on-demand services. This would allow for the following resolution to then be enacted, which is then paid for through CITT. So we need one to do the other to move forward. This was a process in which we have identified various locations to be in accordance with the county ordinance for essential service locations, such as pharmacies, groceries, doctors' offices, and so forth. And so we are in accordance, although the plan also calls that we may add or delete additional stops within a 2.5 mile radius of the village. So once we, if the village were to pass this, then this would go over to the county. The county would then hear it and essentially pass it so that we can move forward with the services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. All in favor of?
Discuss this.
You wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Does anybody else?
No.
Okay, Mario, I have a couple of quick questions for you about this. And you know, I read these things and I go through every word to make sure we know what we're getting ourselves involved in. So section 3.2 discuss fares, and it says that there will be no charge to residents at the beginning of this, that it's free at the beginning, but that we could charge a fare. Do you anticipate requiring a fare at any time? And if we were to determine we needed to charge residents a fare, who approves that before a fare is passed?
So no, I don't anticipate this being a fare like structure. I don't believe that's even the business model for freebie. However, the interlocal agreement provides for the process in which a fare increase, which right now it's 0. So anything above 0 would have to go through a process in order to be able to amend that. I don't know where it calls for,
but the commission, but it's in section 3.2. So would that come before the commission first?
It would have to come back to the commission, yes.
Okay, fair enough. That makes me more comfortable about that. Now, we have a history of not reporting things very well, especially when it comes to CITT. And since you came on board, you and Roseanne have taken leaps forward in that regard. But there are a lot of requirements in here that are going to fall on you and your staff, specifically submitting reports. Are the reports that I read about in the agreement with Freebie, do those suffice for all the reports that are required of you from the county? Because I want to make sure you guys can do this great. So you can just literally forward them along and you'll be complying with CITT.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, most of
Wonderful.
the CITT reports are based off of the information that they receive from on-demand services. That data,
Okay.
because it's app-based, is automatically generated. So that meets everything that we need to do.
Okay, wonderful. Because you know, the ultimate resolution would be they'd ask for their money back if it got to that point, which they did that once to us already. We don't want to be in that situation again. Last question. This requires an app for people to order a ride, and we have a number of residents who are, let's say, are not app friendly. And is there any other way for them to access this service? I'm specifically thinking some of our elderly residents who may not be as comfortable with the technology that's normally used for this service. Is there any other way for them to take advantage of this service?
Yes, Freebie can provide a phone number so that someone can call and request a ride. Usually the way that works is that phone number will be connected to either the iPad or the iPhone or whatever is connected to the car itself. And so the driver will be able to pick up and listen to any voicemails. You know, obviously they would be picking up a phone call when they're not driving for safety purposes, but there will be a phone number that people can use.
Okay, wonderful. Make sure that you know, that's always included as well. Not that we want people to use the phone service. Most people will use the app, but I want to make sure people are clear that they'll be able to use their phone to call for a ride as well. That's it. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, all in favor of 2021-45, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 11B, on-demand freebie passenger shuttle. Do we have a motion on that resolution? I'm sorry, Valerie, you want to read it first?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, authorizing the village manager to execute an agreement between B3 LLC, doing business as B, and the Village of Biscayne Park for on-demand transit services in an amount not to exceed $120,000 attached hereto as Exhibit A, authorizing the village manager to do all things necessary to effectuate the resolution and providing for an effective date.
Okay, do we have a motion on that? Okay, motion made by Commissioner Smery and seconded by Vice Mayor Hammelberg. Any discussion on that?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Mario.
Just to again reiterate, this is being funded through CITT funds, which require that a minimum of 20% of funds allocated to the village be used for transit services. As of right now, Biscayne Park has $165,000 that carry over from previous unused years. Without using this money, we would forfeit the rest of the funds allocated to the village, which are severely needed for road and stormwater improvements that we have on deck. We also applied for a grant which would give the village essentially $150,000 over 3 years from DOT. We were ranked #1 for that. We are still waiting to hear from DOT with regards to the funds allocation. As we all know, unfortunately, in this village all too well, DOT works at their own purview. So we're still waiting on that, but we do have the funds needed to implement. It is a 3-year contract, and obviously there's options to terminate for convenience if need be. We're recommending 56 hours a week, in which Sunday through Thursday would be from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. and Friday and Saturday would be from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm available if anybody has any questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Everybody in favor of?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead,
I just
Commissioner.
want to make sure we're really clear on some numbers here, Mario. Am I muted?
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm unmuted now. Okay, so Mario, it's 120 a year for 3 years, so that's 360. If we get that grant, we'll have 315, including what we have banked now. How much do you anticipate getting from CIT for the transit fund in the next 3 years during the course of this that would feed into this?
So CITT gives us on average $144,000. We're required to spend a minimum of 20% of that for transit services. So that comes out to about 28,000 at a minimum. You can always spend more, but at a minimum, you would have to do at least 28.
Okay, so if we get 28 a year for the next 3 years, that'll make us completely solid on this program if we get that grant.
Correct. We're anticipating receiving that grant. And so we currently have through 2020, 165,000 that needs to be used. So we, at a bare minimum, we have 1 full year plus some of service that, we're going to use right away. So we have that budget covered. And then we anticipate having the DOT grant come in as well. Should something in the funding change after the 165 that's carried over from unused years change, then that will come back to the commission with regards to either changing the contract or the hours to reduce the amount of the budget or terminating the contract for convenience.
Okay, very good. So that was my next question. We could reduce the service to bring the bill down if the numbers started to not work for us.
We would come back to the commission with that recommendation.
Okay, so the 120 is the contract for, but it's not the minimum that 3D requires for a contract. That's all that Pine Crest or someone at 100,000. Okay, very good. Okay, so we have some flexibility here. Regarding the locations that we drop, that freebie will drop people off, it's several drugstores, some grocery stores, and some bus stops. Remind us all how flexible we are in that, because when we had the event that that satisfied our requirement of having a workshop over at the rec center, it was not presented quite that way. It sounded more flexible that night, that you could be dropped off anywhere within a certain radius of Biscayne Park outside of the village. But now when we got the contract, that it's very specific drop-off locations. As we see reports come back from Freebie about how this is being used, because clearly we're doing this to kind of check a box and unlock our road fund, which is great, but we also want this to be a good service for our community. As we get reports and see this not working as well, do we have flexibility to change that so people could go elsewhere within the radius of the village?
Yes, Commissioner, that's an excellent question. So we can amend those locations. One of the key factors that you need to be able to make sure that we monitor is how long of a wait between someone requesting service and getting into the vehicle is it going to take. If a resident has to wait 45 minutes because the car is dropping off randomly everywhere, then they're never going to use that again. So by being able to limit, at least at the beginning, to see where and how the residents are using the service, we're able to better guarantee a 5 to 10 minute wait before you see the car again. And so it's a normal practice to be able to say, okay, these are the defined areas for now, and as you start getting more data coming in, then you can make those adjustments as needed.
Okay, wonderful. So we do have some flexibility, and we'll be watching this to make sure it's really user friendly for the residents. That's great. 2 quick little questions. The county ILA requires a $10,000 fidelity bond, but I don't see that in the freebie contract. Valerie, are we all okay there?
I'm sorry, I had feedback.
I'm sorry, that's from you. The county ILA has a requirement for certain kind of insurance and things. And one of them, it says a $10,000 blanket fidelity bond, but I don't see that in the freebie contract.
That's something that I could look into. I don't recall that specifically, but if it is required, we can add it.
Okay. Okay, I read through pretty closely. I didn't see it. I did a word search, so we might want to look into it just to make sure our Ts are crossed on that regard. And then one final question, Mario. This was really interesting to me. It says in the contract with Freebie that they have to pay for the electricity to charge the vehicle. I don't know if it charges the vehicle or a battery that comes out of the vehicle, but at any rate, it has to be plugged in at the village, but that they have to pay for the electricity to charge this. So how will that be measured and billed to Freebie? And where will this be plugged in? I'm assuming it's a rec center.
That's something that we still got to work out with them. It would either be at Public Works, which I would feel more secure since it's a fenced off area, or the rec center would be the other obvious choice. Normally that would just be discounted off of whatever invoice that they would do to cover. It's usually very minimal what it would cost to actually cover the charge.
Okay, well, it says it in there, so just want to make sure that we're doing whatever we have to do, because every little bit in our little meager budget makes a difference, you know. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Mario. Very nicely done, by the way. You solved this problem for us in a couple months.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, resolution 2021-51 approving Freebie agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 11C, adopting the annual solid waste assessment for 21-22. Valerie?
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, adopting the annual solid waste assessment for fiscal year 2021-2022, establishing the assessment rate for solid waste service against assessed property located within the Village of Biscayne Park for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Discussion on that? No discussion, commissioners? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Mayor, I'm sorry, but you're
A
muted.
resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, ratifying the selection, appointment, and term of office of the board members to the planning board and providing for an effective date.
Okay, we have one person that applied, and Manny Espinosa. I think most of the people know him. Does everybody agree with that, commissioners? Oh, we need a motion, I'm sorry. A motion? Okay, Commissioner Smery, Vice Mayor seconded it. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Discussion, permit fee schedule. Mario?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission, thank you so much for the opportunity. In January, we extended Calvin Giordano their contract, which will also be coming to you all soon, I think in October as well. In that, the discussion from the commission was to evaluate and to recommend permit fee schedule, either increases or decreases. And since that time, we've had some reshuffling per se within the building department. Miss Ransom Jackson is currently our building official. She took on the process, and I have her here. She's unmuted so that she can present the rationale behind not only how the law changed in the 2020 legislative session, but also she can expand upon what the recommendation and why the recommendations are. So Shelley, if you can introduce yourself.
First, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission. Shelley Ransom Jackson, building official. So to start, I looked at the fee schedule and, well, you know what, let me back up. Let me give you what my credentials. I have been a building official for the past 13 plus years. And I have worked in quite a few different municipalities, namely Miami Gardens. I've worked for the Seminole Tribe of Florida as their building official, as well as Hallandale Beach. And I got my start actually in Miami-Dade County. So with that being said, I looked at the fee schedule. And the last amendment to the fee schedule was actually June 7th of 2016. So we're talking at least 5 years ago. And in that time, we've definitely seen some significant economic changes. And most, in particular, this past year during the COVID pandemic. And since I've been with the village, I noticed that, and it's not only with the village, it's actually across the board. There have been significant increases in home improvement permits. And what that has done, it's resulted in additional man hours that's being required by the building department staff. And that's really so that we can have or maintain an acceptable level of service to the residents of the village of Biscayne Park. So, in looking at all of that, and looking at the current fee schedule, the fee schedule really didn't support the additional man hours that was created by the additional service demand. So in looking at that, in addition, there are several fees that some of the surrounding areas for residents that Biscayne Park is not charging. One of the things that some of the other municipalities in the surrounding area have are they can offset the residential costs by the commercial, because typically the commercial permit fees are higher. So that somewhat makes up for the, for a lower fee as it pertains to residential construction. And so because Biscayne Park does not have the significant any real commercial activity, then when you look at the various permit types or the types of construction that's going on, along with the fee that was being charged, it just did not, it couldn't meet the demand of service that it was requiring. And then on top of that, there was a recent Florida statute in this 2021 legislative session that prohibits building departments from requiring construction contracts to be provided to really to determine the permit fees. And so permit fees can either be determined by construction value or square foot. By the square foot cost. And I researched several in the surrounding area as well as neighboring counties. So I looked at Miami Shores, I looked at Bay Harbor Island, Bal Harbor, Hallandale Beach, just trying to find, getting municipalities that are pretty much almost similar in size and somewhat composition. And but I also looked at Miami Gardens, I looked at Miami-Dade County, all of these permit fee schedules. And the research just revealed that there are several typical residential permit types that are not currently being charged by the village. And so what I did was I added those the additional increase in the existing fees, but I also added some new residential permit categories to the fee schedule to help mitigate some of the loss, because right now you're actually there's a, in terms of the revenues collected versus what is being paid out, you're actually operating at a loss. And so in proposing the new fee schedule for the Village of Biscayne Park, it really is just to bring you in alignment with the surrounding municipalities and the county. And it is expected to generate the revenues needed to fully fund the building department operations and significantly improve the current level of service. And I will, in terms of the revenues, Florida Statute 553.80, it clearly states that revenues derived from building permit fees are for the sole purpose of covering the activities associated with the enforcement of the Florida Building Code. So that being the case, and right now, with the revenues not being able to cover that, therefore the current fee schedule is being proposed. And I'll take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Kennedy?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's Commissioner Gonzalez.
Hi, good evening, Ms. Jackson.
Good evening.
So I wanted to ask you and or Mr. Our Manager Diaz. So my understanding is that currently our building department, the revenue that's generated for, the revenue that's generated from our building department can't be used for anything other than our building department. That's the case, correct? Right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So my understanding is currently we're trying to figure out ways of using the current revenue that we're generating for our building department because we have a surplus of revenue in our building department. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to continue to have a surplus in the future, but currently that's the case. Am I right or am I wrong?
Correct, sir. So
In that statement?
because of the amount of permits being requested and issued since COVID, we will actually have a surplus of funds. The problem becomes where the vendor, and this isn't at the building officials level, but on the contract management, they were contracted to have part-time plan reviewers, part-time inspectors, part-time everything. But those part-timers, because of the amount that we have work-wise, is almost becoming either 3/4 or, they could almost be here full-time. And so the contractor has said, listen, we can't continue the rates that we're doing with the amount of hours that are being put in. So that's why when you look at what the former rates were compared to what it is, we wouldn't be able to keep up with that. However, the vendor said, listen, we're also just not going to go and completely run amok with the hours and everything that are doing. So they've been working with the village in order to provide the services that we need. And for the most part, they've lost money. They've lost money on this contract. So by relooking at the fees and proposing these, they're hoping to stabilize that contract again. Now, in the budget, building department, there's a couple different things that we've done. One is we've identified a digitalization to move all of our paper records into a digital copy on the cloud or whatnot, so that that is there. And we're also talking about various software components that we would need to implement. And I'm in the final stages before bringing that to the commission, so that we can not only make the process more customer friendly and make it a lot easier for our residents to submit and obtain their permits and to check the status, but also to come into into compliance with state laws with regards to the new permitting structures and requirements that they've additionally mandated on local governments. Does that answer your question, sir?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
So
I apologize.
that's all right, but that's a great speed. But so my question is, Mario, so obviously I want to make sure that, us as a village are attractive, right, to investors. I'm pro investing. I'm pro people coming into our village and spending money in our village and developing properties and making our village more, more attractive and better. So I just want to understand where, as far as our building department is concerned, because I was always under the impression that, we always had, we had a surplus in the amount of money that we were collecting, unless something has changed, okay, and maybe something has changed. But I was always under the impression that we had a surplus of money, and we were always trying to figure out, well, how do we spend this money? Where do we put this money? How do we, invest this money? So if that's not the case any longer and something has changed, then I want to understand that. So maybe, we need to change something else. But that was my understanding before. So please explain.
So I apologize. So by the end of this fiscal year, so by the end of the month, we are anticipating approximately $115,000 of a surplus. That is based on a 60-40 split with the contractor, which is for every dollar that we get, they get 60 cents, we get 40. Again,
which we've changed, right? We've changed that
based on what happens with their recommendation for the permit fee schedule. So if we accept their recommendation, it would go into a 70-30 split. If we do not, and we say we want to keep everything the same, it would go to a 75-25 split. So that's the major difference there, is for the last couple of years, with the increase of man hours needed to service the village, they are now in an area where essentially they're paying to have the contract, right? So they're losing money because they have a lot more hours that they have to dedicate for a much smaller area than what was previously anticipated. And I would say that we are very competitive.
Okay, our current split is what? Wait.
Sure. Our current split is 60% for the vendor, 40% for the village.
Okay, so we're changing, or they're proposing a change to what?
So with
70-30?
If the acceptance of the fees, it would go 70-30. Or if we deny it and we keep the fees as is, it would go 75-25.
Well, if it's as is, it would be 60-40. You said it was 60-40. Well, how did
no, it's currently 60-40. However, they're saying they cannot continue under that split. So they were going to bring a recommendation. They were going to bring, which is what we see, they were going to bring a recommendation for consideration. At that point, and we can decide for a vote. It doesn't have to be this meeting, it can be next. But when the commission votes to approve, then it would go into a 70-30 split. If the commission votes to deny and to keep the fees the same, then the split would go 75-25. So they're increasing their percentage to be able to meet the services needed for the village. It just depends on how big of a jump that is. Now they recoup more on the 70-30 because of the new permit fees than if they maintain the same. They'll need a bigger chunk of that split with the existing.
Got it. So it's in their best interest to raise rates, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? When multiple commissioners have their mics on, it becomes very difficult to hear.
So it's in their best interest to raise the rates for people currently applying for whatever building permits went out. If they're going to change their split to 70-30, it's in their best interest to change to raise rates, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so my question to you, Mr. Diaz, our manager, is that a viable option? Is that something that you see as necessary? Or is that something that, obviously as a business that they are, is in their best interest to raise rates to make more money?
I think it's both. We want to make sure that we are able to provide the services needed so that the buildings are inspected and everything is done properly, not only with state statute, but from a safety standpoint. And so if the village does not have the adequate service to be able to provide to the residents, then there could be a lot of mitigating issues after the fact that we would have to address. But again, because the rates haven't been addressed in basically 6 years, it becomes this big jump that we've seen in almost everything that we're doing as we're modernizing and we're moving up and we're bringing everything to speed. It's like, okay, why is this such a huge jump? Well, because no one's done anything for almost a decade, if not more. And so we need to take a look. When we're talking about competitiveness, we're base permit fees, we're talking about, putting for the building permits, a permit base fee right now it's 60, moving it up to 100. Other communities have the base permit fee $400. So it's like an application fee is $125 in other communities and things like that. So it's not that we're becoming all of a sudden from the least expensive to the most expensive. In most part, we're not even average, even with these recommendations, but the fee schedules that are being proposed that I can see from an economical standpoint seems to be, closer to the things that we would need to maintain a vendor working for the village to ensure that we're following state statutes and having someone doing the proper plan reviews and inspections and things like that are needed.
Okay, I'll just end with this and I'll let somebody else talk, is that, I want to be fair and I want to be competitive with other cities and with other locations nearby, but I also don't want to enrich, these people that work for us. So I just want to make sure that, we are competitive and that whatever we do makes sense financially, not only for us, but also for our residents and
Absolutely.
for potential investors that want to come into our village. And
absolutely, sir.
I'll let others speak.
City Mayor?
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Hammelberg wishes to speak.
Okay. Number one, Mario and I had a talk early on when this overage of building fees came up, and part of what it was that we were not utilizing, we were utilizing our clerk Lizzie to help in the building department, yet she wasn't getting paid out of the building department. So we tried to work on correcting that. Also, the building department uses a lot of our printing and other machinery that needs to be taken out of the building department and not be totally borne by administration. Also, we do need to modernize and digitalize a lot of things. And I think it's really important that we get that taken care of. I think getting up to state of the art is going to be better for us overall, even if it costs a little bit more money. Maybe what we can do is have a little workshop with Shelley, who I've spoken to before, and she can put together her numbers of what other cities charge, and we can look at the raw numbers. While I'm looking at this, I have done demolition on my property in 2005 when Hurricane Irma hit it. And I will tell you, I personally paid the demolition fee for it, even though there's nothing that lists it right here as an existing fee. My neighbor next door who put in a swimming pool, I know she did an installation, and there was a permit fee for that. And I paid a permit fee for my screen enclosure. So they're not listed on here, but I know that we were getting permit fees for them. So I think a lot of this looks a lot worse than what it actually is, and we don't have to exactly agree to all the numbers, but I think that things do need to be amended, and I'm glad we're looking at it and looking at it to go forward. And in all honesty, if a $25 increase in fare and the fee is what it's going to cost, it's not going to turn an investor off. And it's probably for somebody doing a new septic tank, a $25 increase in fee if they're paying $5,000 for a drain field isn't going to be that much more of a hardship than what the drain field's going to be.
Okay, thank you.
The only question I really have is, when was it, Mr. City Manager, when was the last time our fees were raised? And are these the same? 2005? And it is the fees that we're charging basically the same, close to what other cities are? Because I tend to agree with Vice Mayor that with investors, it's not going to make that much of a difference in raising prices. But I'm concerned about is not the investors. I'm concerned about the have to pay the fees. That's what I'm concerned about.
So the
investors, but
the last fee schedule,
cost them anything, but I don't want to see a resident, if they have 100, let's say, I think it was one time I brought up at a commission meeting, they had $150 fence that they put up and it cost them over $300 for the fees. So I want to see something that's compatible and that doesn't cost the residents. I'm not concerned about the investors. I'm concerned more about the residents have to pay more than what the volume, the item is. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Kennedy?
Okay, I have a couple of things, and everyone's bringing up very good points, so I'm glad we're having this discussion. I want to respond to one thing that Dan just said. Dan, residents are investors as well. So let's not, when you say investor, don't think, Wall Street's coming in and buying up properties and turning them into McMonsters. I'm an investor in the village as well. So I know you're trying to make a distinction there, but we're all, anyone who owns a property, we don't all own properties, but everyone who does own a property are investors in the village. So there is that. To something Judy just said, I think it's worth, when we talk about, it's only a $25 increase. We just passed on first reading a change to our millage rate. And each point of that millage rate that we decreased, each 0.1 for the average resident is only $25. So an increase, that one little tiny increase just ate up that tax savings that we just gave that resident. And some of these things are increased by a lot of money. So for many residents, one permit would more than wipe out significant, like fivefold, sixfold, tenfold the savings that you guys are so proud you just gave them. So some of us up here are saving as little as $11 a year with this tax change. Some are saving a little bit more, but we need to look at this very carefully. I understand what Shelley's saying and I understand what Mario is saying, but we need to look at this carefully because, there's lots of ways you can tax people. One of them is a millage rate and another way is fees. So we can say, look what we did. We dropped the tax rate for Biscayne Park. Aren't we fabulous? And then you pass something like this, and people are, all it takes is one home improvement. And you just wipe that out and then some. And now I'm in deep again with the village where I pay these crazy taxes. So let's keep that all in mind. So first of all, is Shelley still there? I can't see her. Okay. I wish I could see her. Can you unmute yourself, Shelley, so you pop up to the top?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Shelley. My name is Matt Kennedy. We have not had the pleasure. Mario speaks so highly of you. So thank you for all the work you're doing on our behalf, and thanks for coming tonight to present this, and nice to meet you virtually at the very least. I want to ask you a couple of questions because you are very credentialed building official. Do you see any trends in improvements and in new construction? But let's really limit this conversation to home improvements, because last year during COVID, I know it went off the charts because everybody was home, and I lost track of all the things I did at my house. But does your industry, do people in your industry, you being one of them, do you see any trends? Is that going to continue? Is it going to stabilize, continue an upward trend? We're trying to figure out sort of how the money is going to work based on what's happening here. What insights can you give us in that regard?
Well, what I've seen thus far is that I do not believe the trend is going to go down because most persons have transitioned to work from home. And that being the case, there are still significant, even though everything's opened up, there's still a significant amount of home improvements still being done. And I honestly can see that into the near future. I do not believe it's going to go back to people going outside of most persons going outside of their home to work.
So what that might indicate to us is if it's going to continue, like last year, we got all this extra money. It was a boon, to our revenue because of all that was happening. And we've got to make sure you guys are paid fairly and that we cover our expenses here. But if you're saying that the trends are that it will continue, then we can sort of think we might be able to rely on that, the volume making up for a smaller increase if we decide to increase anything at all, because you can make more money on volume and you can make more money on increased fees to fewer people. But if the trend is going to continue to be upward to some degree, at least volume's on our side. Would that be fair to say?
Well, if you increase volume and you lower and you keep it as it is, the manpower stays the same. So, and actually in an increase in volume,
I'm talking just the dollars for now.
Right. So for dollars, yes, if you increase the volume, then and with a smaller increase in fees, yes, you will see there is some advantage to that.
Okay, so because it's just really, there's a couple numbers here that you multiply and see what's going on. Okay, here's what I would like to see. I have a couple of other questions for you, Shelley, but here's what I would like to see for us to be able to look at this in real numbers. And I can't request this of you, Shelley, so I'm just talking out loud here. This is what Mac would like to see. If the commission asked Mario to have you put it together for us, that would be great, because our split's going to change. It's going from 60-40 to 70-30 or 75-25. The split's going to change one way or the other is basically what I'm hearing. So what that means is if we looked at fiscal 21, the fiscal year that we're ending here in a couple of weeks, if we looked at fiscal 21, we have actual hard numbers we can look at. We know what we charge for permits. We know what the split was. We know how much you made, how much we made. We could take those same numbers and extrapolate it across the other splits, and we could see, based on no change at all, we could see how that would look. So I wish those numbers were here tonight, because it's very easy to do that math. Someone with a spreadsheet can say, Biscayne Park in fiscal 21, here's how you look at 60-40. And if nothing changed, you did the exact same permits again next year, no trends up, down, or sideways. Here's what 70-30 would look like. Here's what 75-25 would look like. I think those are the numbers that we need to have to be able to have a conversation about making the numbers work
Commissioner,
for everyone.
In your budget documents for the building department, when you look at it, you'll see that the fiscal year 21 with the 60-40 split, they were looking at essentially 67,925. When we recalculate with we're budgeting for the 70-30 split, that goes to 73,360. Year to date so far in 21, we've actually spent 91,336. And again, that becomes that's all determined by the volume, as you said. In many municipalities, yeah, the higher the volume, wonderful, because you would have staff and vendors and things that you can kind of work with. That's not our universe. And so the higher the volume that we have, increases the amount of workload on these same inspectors that are doing all of those plan reviews and so forth. So you'll see in the year to date through July 31st, an expenditure of on the 60-40 split of $91,000. And when we had budgeted 67, again, even with the caveat to all that is, we don't necessarily know how many people are going to pull out permits and how much those permits are going to be. So we're just kind of estimating.
That's why I asked Shelley. I know,
that.
I understand. I understand that this is not hard numbers we're looking at. That's why I asked Shelley if she saw any trends that she could identify. Like if she said, oh no, the industry is saying this is all going to come to a crashing halt here, that would be a very different scenario, but she's not saying that's.
Yeah, no, I would even venture
just like
to say as the real estate market goes, so does the renovation and the additions and stuff like that in the home. Because the majority of homeowners, what they end up doing is they end up pulling whatever type of equity they have in their home to pay the $30,000 or $50,000 pool that they want to install, or the new media room, or things like that. It's very rare that the majority of homeowners will have 30,000 sitting around so that they can do an addition to the home. And I mentioned that in relation to kind of frame it for you all. The reason why COVID didn't impact Biscayne Park the same way it impacted other municipalities is because the majority of the money that we receive comes from property taxes. Well, property taxes are collected between November and like March. Yep. And so, but homeowners, they pay their property taxes on a monthly basis. And so that's almost like a guaranteed pot. That's why the property tax, the ad valorem revenue that comes into the cities wasn't as affected as all the tourism or commercial based type of revenue that comes in other cities that are more dependent. Yeah, they got more money, but they got a bigger hit, where we didn't, because everybody would pay their mortgage essentially.
Okay. Well, back to my original, the point that I made a little bit earlier is that we have a history to look at. We know what happened in fiscal 21. You know, every kind of permit you gave out, it's on someone can put that on a spreadsheet and say, this is actually for real what happened in Biscayne Park in fiscal 21 from October 1st until September 30th, which is in a couple of weeks. At 60-40, this is exactly what happened in Biscayne Park. If we changed nothing and the split changed, here's what it would look like Biscayne Park. And if you changed fees a certain percentage, maybe not to the exact dollar that was on the schedule we're looking at tonight, but if you increase it by a certain percentage at a new split, here's what it would look like. I think
we can provide that. Yes.
Yeah, I need to see that. That makes it real. That makes it real for me, because right now I'm looking at like, oh, we charge $25 for something, now we're going to charge $150. And I'm thinking like, holy crap, seriously? So I think I need to see hard numbers. Okay, I have a couple of other questions for Shelley, if I can, because I don't get to talk to a building official very often. If we're going to start this conversation, I need to have some more information in my head. Shelley, are you still there?
Yes, sir, I am.
In your experience, how often should a community address the fee schedule? Take a look at it, even if they don't make changes. How often should they look at it, and how often do they typically make some kind of adjustments? I'm thinking long term now, because we're going to fix this now, but I want to be thinking ahead,
So in my experience, it's typically codified that it's at least looked at annually. And changes may not necessarily be made annually, but it's definitely looked at annually, and it's compared.
So it's codified in many communities.
Yes, and I'll give you a prime example: Miami Gardens. They actually have where it shall be increased annually. Not that they necessarily
really?
increase their, yes,
Okay.
sir. And that's not the only jurisdiction.
Okay.
So you look at it annually,
Okay.
and then you again, there have been some where jurisdictions that I know of where they've looked at it and they've had such massive commercial development in it, and I'm stressing commercial, that
Right.
they've actually reduced their fees so they wouldn't have as much of a surplus. But
surplus.
then, right, so then
Understood.
you're
Okay.
right. So mhm.
Okay. So Shelley, when I, as a resident, I'm going to use myself because like trying to just think as a regular person, which I like to think I am a regular person. And I pulled a lot of permits here in Biscayne Park and elsewhere. What percentage of what I pay in my permit fee goes to the actual inspections themselves versus, and if you don't know the answer to this, I hate to put you on the spot, but what percentage is for the inspection versus administrative stuff and whatever else is happening in the office?
What, from my experience, so plan review is of the 100% of the permit fee. Plan review is somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30%, and then the other 70% goes to inspections and administrative work. It goes to inspections and administrative and any other ancillary things that we may do, as well as technology and things of that nature.
Okay, so plan review 30, more or less plan review 30, 70 for inspections and admin kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to say something here, and this is not meant to be an insult to your company. I've never met you. I'm just going to state something from my own experience again, because we're talking about increasing fees. And I'm going to think as a resident here, I pulled a lot of permits when my husband and I moved here 6 years ago, and we did tons of stuff. Did it all by permit. And here was my experience with the inspectors. And we were, so I'm bringing this up because I paid a fee, and you're saying 70% of it went to inspection stuff. When the electrical inspector, who I assume was from your company or someone you subcontracted to, came to my house and we did everything. We redid the entire house, okay? Electric, new boxes, the whole 9 yards. He literally stood in my doorway and said, "You use Dave and Roger, good choice. I'm signing you off." And I'm like, "Oh no, come in, I'm ready. This is my electrical inspection." And he said, "No, I know those guys work. I see it all the time. Good job." And he signed it and he walked out. When they did our driveway a year and a half ago, I don't know if it was your employee or a subcontractor, he literally stood on our front porch and said, my husband was there, and said, "Okay, what do you want to see?" And the inspector literally said, "Are you happy with your driveway?" And my husband said, "Oh yeah, we love our driveway. You know, what do you need to see to sign off on the inspection?" He said, "If you're happy, we're happy." He signed the form and handed it to him. My point is, and I could go on because the roof guy did it was Sal. It doesn't work here anymore. He stood halfway up the ladder and looked up and said, "It looks good to me. Paul Baines does great work." My point is if we're paying all this money and now we're going to talk about increasing the fees, I want to know that we're getting the money that we're getting, the work that we're spending on, because my experience was in Biscayne Park with all the permits I pulled, no one did a thorough inspection of anything except the swimming pool. There was one swimming pool guy who came a couple of times, and he seemed to be like, "This is going to be done right." I don't know who he was. But other than that, I'm telling you, I, as a resident, thought this is what I'm paying for. And now we're looking, and I bring this up, guys, and Shelley, it's not a slight to anybody. You didn't even work there. You didn't work there. But I'm bringing it up because my experiences, I paid all that money for inspections that really, honestly, did not happen. Yeah, really. It really does. Because, I was like paying permit fee after permit fee after permit fee. And I thought, I hope all this stuff is really as good as they say, because I don't know what these inspectors are looking for. So that's my point here, is that we're paying for a product. I want to know we're getting the product. And that might be a conversation that Mario has with whomever is scheduling inspectors. And transparency, it was 6 years ago when we did most of that work. 5 years ago, we did most of that work. So hopefully things are different then. It's like a minimum, like electric. You said there's a minimum, you're suggesting a minimum for electric inspection, for electric permit. Is that inclusive of whatever else would be underneath it? Because it says like minimal I don't have it pulled up, but let's just say it says minimal electric permit $100. And then there's this long menu of $5 a light socket and $3 for a cable box. And are all of those things included in the $100, or is it $100 and then you start adding on all these other things?
No, what that is if the computation is less than $100, then you are charged $100.
You're charged 100.
It's
That's
not-
what I know. So it's inclusive of the work up to $100, and then you start adding on after that. Yeah. Okay.
Let me give you an example. Okay. So, and I'm just gonna, and since you're in, because I'm actually looking at it. So you're talking about electrical. So for the, excuse me, for the electrical, if you are looking at, get to it. Okay, where are you?
I think
All
100
right.
was
So,
$100
okay,
was
yes, the
electrical
100
minimum.
is, right, 100 is the minimum. So if you are, and let's look at your, if you go to motors, and I'll just take the first one, each motor up to 1 horsepower. Currently it's $8 per horsepower. We're taking it to, I mean, I'm sorry, per motor, and we're just taking it to 10. Well, if you have one motor at 10, then if you're
If
only
I
going
had
to
10
do
of
one
those,
horsepower,
it would be
$100.
Yeah. It's going to cost me $100. But if I did 10 of them, it's still $100. If I do 11, it's $110.
Correct. No.
Got it. I
I'm
understand.
sorry. No. Sorry. No, not what you. What I'm saying is that minimum is you're going to do a total of whatever quantity you have. It's a total, and if that total is less than $100, then the minimum is $100. Yeah.
I understand. Okay. Why do we charge to cancel a permit? That one just jumped out at me. It's so odd. So I get a permit, and then I say, you know what? I decided not to do my roof. Why do we charge someone to cancel a permit?
Because there historically there are persons who will request to cancel a permit after they've already done the work. And so what that fee is for an inspector to go out to ensure that the work really has not been completed.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Sneaky people. You're onto them. Thank you for that. Okay. So I have a couple of other things, but I'm going to let it go. I'm just going to end my segment by saying I'm very happy that we're looking at this. And it sounds like some good homework was done to get us to this first conversation. I would not be comfortable even remotely considering adjusting anything on here until we see a real comparison of what's going to happen. Because as I stated before, you know, with this new fee schedule, somebody pulls one permit and you just wiped out that tax decrease you guys were so happy to give them. We save the average person $50, one permit, and you wiped it out. And they decide to do any kind of minor renovation on their home, and they have to they put in a new bathroom, and that requires building and electrical and plumbing, and forget that little tax cut you gave them. It's out the window and a whole lot more. And God forbid they increase the square footage of their house, and then taxable value changes, and we're off to the races. So I think we need to look at this. I think we need to do it very judiciously, and I think it starts with some kind of a look at actual hard numbers. Since we're at the end of a fiscal year, it's the perfect time to do that. Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to add one thing. Sorry about the experience that Commissioner Kennedy's had. But I've pulled 2 permits, and both people that have come out to our house to inspect our permits have been super professional and above and beyond what I expected. They were super detail oriented. They made the contractor come back and change things and add things. So my experience was very positive with the inspectors that have come out to our house. I just wanted to bring that up.
Charlie, don't send them back to re-inspect me now. I got
And
finals.
just for point of
Okay.
clarification, I believe this vendor was with the village 5 or 6 years ago.
No, and I've also had lots of permits, and I rebuilt my whole house in 2006. And there were many things that the inspector did catch that needed to be taken care of. Not necessarily that the contractor was trying to do something wrong, but they weren't paying attention to some of the detail that the inspectors did. And I thank God every day for the inspectors. And I told them, I don't want this house to blow down like the last one did. So no, I had good experiences with inspectors.
Okay,
Thank
is
you.
discussion
Thank you, Shannon.
finished on permit fee schedules?
Yes, Mayor,
Which,
we'll bring back the additional information and update the spreadsheet accordingly so that you all can make an informed decision. Thank you so much for the time.
I would just add that I discussed this at great length with Mario, and also checking what the fee schedules were for neighboring areas, and I kind of agreed with this. So we will, I'm sure, discuss it again. Okay, the next one we're taking is solid waste status. My apologies to Willie Fernandez. It's kind of late. Mario, would you like to introduce him?
Absolutely, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Commission. Thank you again. Commissioner Kennedy requested to have a discussion on solid waste and the status of the new contract. Joining me tonight is Willie Hernandez from Great Waste. He represented the company a couple months ago when we were doing the award, as well as Carlo, and I'm sorry, every time I try to pronounce your last name, I end up butchering it. Carlo is the owner of Great Waste. He is someone who has been heavily involved with getting things underway, not only with me, but in the field and even responding to residents. So I'd like to introduce them. But I think, Mayor, if it's okay, I think it might be pertinent not only for Great Waste to say a few words of introduction, but then to see Commissioner Kennedy kind of take the direction of the things that he wanted to kind of discuss, so that we can get to the point as quickly as possible. Carlo, Willie, would you like to say a few introductory words?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Carlo.
I just wanted to say good evening to everyone. It's nice to, I've got the voice on my phone. I'm echoing. Willie, you might have to take over.
Yeah, good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Commission. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mario?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Yes, I just wanted to, a couple things, and I want, we have some statistical information, and we have great things going on at Great Waste. I do certainly want to take a minute to show our appreciation for having the honor to serve this mayor, this commission, this manager, this committee, this city, because it's something that's very important to us, and we take it very seriously. And when we originally came in, you're going to hear some really good things today that I saw on several reports. The old company or the previous vendor that was there had left us with quite a bit of stuff to clean up. We got it cleaned up. We moved forward. We got the new truck in. We got the new containers installed. And there has been just a tremendous amount of success that we have, and we want to share that with you today. Another thing that is very important for us is that we have been able to stabilize and bring reliable, consistent, better quality of service to the city. And that's important. That's something we take a lot of pride in. And that's what we've done across all of the other agencies we service that have been extremely happy with us. Of course, the transition period, there are always going to be some issues and concerns that we deal with. But in an overall, I'm going to let Carlo go over the few things that we have here. Carlo, did you get that thing off?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you good. Let Carlo, the owner of our company, Mr. Carlo Piccinona, and our marketing director, Amanda Piccinona, are here today with us. And, you know, this is important. We understand your positions, but it's also just as important to great waste and recycling services and our owner of our company, which is here, I'll introduce you to Carlo Piccinona.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Manager. I think Willie said it all as an introduction. I'm here to answer any questions that anybody has. I'm ready to go.
Thank you, Carlo.
Commissioner Kennedy, did you want to lead off or have anybody in the commission ask any questions?
Well, sure. So guys, I have a list of things that I put in the agenda that I wanted to discuss with them. And I have some questions of my own as well. Let me just start by saying, and I'm very happy to defer to you guys first, because I'm tired of hearing me. But first of all, I asked for the status, Carlo, Amanda, and Willie. Thank you very much for coming. When I became a commissioner, I didn't think that trash would be such a hot topic. I really had bigger picture, bigger visionary things in my head. But boy, trash becomes such an important thing. And we had a really bad couple of years and end of our former relationship here, and some very unhappy residents. And we entered this with the greatest hopes that you'll make it a whole lot better. And so far, it seems to be going in that direction. So I want to thank you for coming and being willing to do this status, because I think it's important at the beginning of a new relationship to check in. I don't think we need to be having a monthly or quarterly status with Great Waste. We trust Mario to manage our relationship with you. But right now, just understand that I asked for this because it really is critically important. And I do get a lot of complaints about trash, things going on with trash. And a lot of them relate to people not understanding. And you're going to hear me talk about communication here. So I just want to do a quick sort of status of our relationship. I want to make sure that the village is doing well by you guys as well. Are we paying the bills, Willie?
Yes,
paying
sir.
you on time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. So I want to make sure that we're doing our part and that the vendor's doing its part, and that quite frankly, residents are doing their part as well, because in my opinion, our streets look terrible. Many days our streets look terrible with trash cans. It seems to me that now with this new schedule, there's trash on our streets more days than there's not trash on our streets. I'm a big walker. I walk around this village and there's trash out between yard waste, recycling, and trash in these zones that we're working in. It feels like there's trash out there all of the time. And by trash, I mean cans. Maybe they have trash in them, maybe they don't, maybe they don't. But we have a long way to go still to have, for us to have like the clean streets that I think Biscayne Park deserves, where trash is something that we barely even notice or worry about. And it's really a behind the scenes kind of a thing. So having just said that and thanking them for coming, do you guys have anything you want to discuss? I'll happily defer. Dan, do you have anything you want to discuss?
If I'm understanding what you're saying, you want to have stuff picked up certain days, like.
Well, no, I'm not saying that.
Okay, 'cause
Well, I mean, since you brought it up, I mean, we do have Willie, our contract says we get 2 days a week service with you guys, right? That's what we contracted for.
Yeah, I know, but what I was going into, the reason why from when I spoke to the city manager, they're talking about that they want to have the way we have it right now, split areas. I find that to be successful because it doesn't put a lot of wear and tear on the trucks. One of the biggest problems we have with waste flow is they weren't picking up everything. And this company seems to be picking up everything. I think the biggest problem that we have is the education of the residents. Residents are not used to, okay, this is the day that you have to pick up. I like to split because it makes them pick up. Number one, it's not as much wear and tear on their trucks. And that's what I want them to.
Wear and tear on their trucks.
If they have to pick up all of the stuff in one day, like in Biscayne Park, waste always had to, if they did their job, they come by and they pick up everything in one day. You can't pick up everything in Biscayne Park in one day. And I think the splits of, let's say, east, the way we have now, east side is this way, west side is that way. It makes sure that everything is picked up. I think the problem we're having is that people are not used to, one, first off, code is not enforcing it. The people are getting away with putting stuff on Sunday when they shouldn't have been putting it out. And I think that's where code has, and I already talked to the city manager, that's where code has to come after them for that. But I think that once people realize and they get used to having their thing on a certain day, they like it. I just like the split thing. I don't want to have it.
Okay. Well, since you brought that up specifically, Dan, let me respond to that. But Willie, let me ask you a question first. What does our contract say in terms of how many days a week you're to be in the village?
Let me answer that.
Go ahead,
Well,
Carlo.
let me answer that. The contract originally said a Monday pickup for bulk.
Yep.
That's being done in one day. Tuesday and Friday garbage pickup, including recycling pickup for the whole village on Friday. Now, when we went out there prior to starting the contract up, and we started, man, I apologize. My phone is echoing. When we went out there, we started to inspect and see how things were, we found a tremendous amount of bulk. That's when I went to Mario and I told him, I said, listen, we're coming out there with, the contract or the RFP called for 3 days a week, a Monday, a Tuesday, and a Friday. All we did was add one day. And I'll be frank with you. We cleaned up over 30 tons in 4 days when we first started, 30 tons of bulk that the previous caller left behind. I drive through that place at least twice a week. I don't see the trash. Somebody's got to point me to it. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's being done properly. It's being done the way it has to be done. You cannot pick up this place bulk in one day. It can't be done. There's just too much that's generated. When you split the village into two pieces, it makes it a whole lot more efficient. I understand what the Commissioner Dan was saying about the wear and tear on the trucks, but it's not that. It's more the wear and tear on the men. You ask somebody to go out there and do 1,300 homes a day, every single day, picking up yard waste off the ground, picking up recycling, picking up the garbage. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. It's not sustainable. And this is why your waste, the previous hauler failed. What he did, when he agreed to do that, he made a big mistake. And that's why he failed.
Well, Carlo, you agreed to do it.
I think if you continue
Carlo, you agreed to do it as well.
with what we have here, what we're doing for you guys, I think that you'll find that it's going to be very successful.
Okay, so let me respond to that. So first of all, Dan, I'm not concerned with the wear and tear on their trucks. That's their trucks, their problem. They're a vendor and we signed a contract with them. If there's wear and tear on their trucks,
I wouldn't expect you to be concerned with my wear and tear.
Yeah. So we agree on that, Carlo. Now, what we're going to disagree
Yes,
on
we do.
is this schedule. I'm going to disagree with Dan on this because here's what happens. First of all, we put an RFP out for 3 days, but it was my understanding, Mario, jump in here, that they bid, and I read that thing when it came back, they bid to do this all in 2 days. Is that correct? And we agreed to that. So we put an RFP out saying 3 days total that they would be in the village, but then they bid to do it in 2.
We initially bid out for 3 days. However, when we only got one response and I deemed that response non-compliant, the next RFP that we put out allowed for the consideration of a split village, as that was one of the comments that a couple of the different vendors had mentioned might help attract more response to the village. So the bid that was submitted, yes, has a Monday through Friday, but the RFP and the contract also has language to allow them to deviate that, should they be able to provide reasons that allow for it and can show a better quality service if need be.
Okay, so you meant Monday and Friday, not Monday through Friday, but. Okay,
Monday and Friday, yep.
Okay, so Mario, with all due respect, I'm hearing a little different story than I thought we heard before from you. Because you were very excited to report to us that it was going to be done in 2 days. And that was my big source of excitement as well, was we would only have trash trucks in this village 2 days a week. That's what we heard when we agreed to all of this. And now, after only 2 months on the job, the vendor has, well, look, the vendor didn't say after 2 months, we have determined that we need another day to do it. They came right out of the gate. And the reason you gave us was they don't have the cans because they were on back order for COVID. And they don't have a truck for us because there's a computer chip missing that's on back order from COVID as well. So we were told there are 2 reasons why we're not getting 2-day-a-week service. And for that reason, we're going to split this village. So with their old trucks and picking up the cans that we have, everyone's personal cans, for those 2 reasons, they need to split the village. It was never said, I never heard, we're going to let them split the village because no guys could possibly do that and pick up 13 homes in a day.
Sir,
I'm sorry, let me finish. Because, and I didn't want this status to sort of get confrontational here, but I'm all of a sudden hearing something very different than what we heard before, Mario. You were so excited to tell us 2 days a week, and I was thrilled to hear 2 days a week. But right out of the gate, it became 4 days a week. 4. It went from 2 to 4.
So yes, the expectation that we went in was that this was going to be something that is temporary, but as the vendor continued to service the area, seeing how much is actually put in, especially on the west side of the village where it's mainly single family homes with yard waste, being able to actually do it where their truck on a regularly basis, they've reported to me that they've had to go to the landfill and dump everything out and then come back to finish off. If we want to set up expectations, wait. If we want to set up expectations that will never be met and we get back into the areas that we have with Waste Pro, who never, ever completed pickups in 1 day. They were here 5 or 6 days a week trying to do a pickup. And so based on what we've seen when Great Waste has come in and been able to see and say, hey, the split is working because they're able to come in and actually service the areas that they're doing with, comparatively speaking, when you're looking at statistically, very minimal deviation from service, then this is working. Why wouldn't we want to consider maintaining something that's working?
Mario, from some perspectives, it's working. Is the trash getting picked up? Sure, I'll give you that. But what you're telling me is all of that would be fine if they came in here the first day to pick up trash for the first time, never having driven the village, never having seen what the other company was picking up. They didn't have blinders on coming into this. They knew exactly the number of homes they were bidding. They knew exactly the amount of trash we were putting out. They came in here and looked around the village. You told me they did. So it's a little disingenuous to say it's more than they anticipated it would be. It's exactly what they anticipated it would be. And from day one, they switched it on you and they switched it on us. So if you want to say that this is successful and your only measure is the trash getting picked up, then it's successful. But I'm not happy with the way Biscayne Park looks, because we have trash cans on our streets 4 days a week. And what that really means is there are trash cans on the street 6 days a week because they go out the day before, they're out there to get picked up. So 4 days becomes 6 before you know it. Yard waste is being put out on Sundays on my side of the village where it doesn't get picked up until Tuesday. I'm not putting my yard waste out on Monday. I was never told that we'd have to put our yard waste out on a Monday. I work 60 hours a week. I do my yard work on Saturdays and Sundays, and I very carefully time it. So Sunday at 5, I can put it out to the curb. I'm not taking it out on Monday. But that's just my personal thing.
That's fine.
But here's the thing. If we're measuring success with this by the trash getting picked up, then we're successful. But there's a whole lot more to it than that. And I don't want to see trash cans all over our streets all the time and piles of bulk waste and yard debris all over the place all the time. Look, Carlo, we're 3/4 of a square mile. We're this big. When you take a walk, you cross from east side to west side. It's not like we live in city of North Miami and the other side of town is 2 miles away. you take a walk and you're looking at trash cans. So Biscayne Park is full of trash all the time right now. And this is not what I heard what we would be getting, Mario. This is not what I heard. I don't know what the rest of you heard. But this is
Madam
not what I
Mayor,
heard.
point of order, please, point of order. Madam Mayor, the biggest problem that we're having is not that the trash being left out, is that the residents are not following the rules. They're putting stuff out when they're not supposed to put it out. That has nothing to do with the garbage company doing. It has to do with residents not paying attention. They're putting stuff out when they're not supposed to put it out, and they're leaving it out when they're not supposed to leave it out. So that you can't blame the garbage company for that doing. They're picking up the stuff. It's the residents who are not paying attention. I know residents that put stuff out on a Friday, and their garbage pickup is not until Monday. Oh, I didn't know that.
But the point is that it's supposed to be
that's the
2
biggest
days.
problem.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Truth, with all respect, it has to do with code. Code is not enforcing it. And I said that to the city manager. We have to have people being enforced, told that they can't do it.
And these are two separate issues.
No, it's not.
Hear me out. It's two separate issues because if everybody is, let's say everyone's following the rules exactly as they're supposed to, there's still trash cans on the street a whole lot more than we were told there would be. In the best case scenario, it's still not what we were told it was going to be.
And I think
regardless of what
we
it
all
is.
saw, excuse me, I think we all saw in the beginning, people putting garbage out, waste, all kinds of, it was piled all over the place, much more than normal. I think we all saw that. And I think that the garbage people didn't have a choice. I mean, here's all the stuff, much more than they expected. And he said it was a tremendous amount of bulk. So I don't know.
How was it more than expected, Jenny?
I personally am very happy with the service that they're doing. I love the fact that we don't have piles and piles sitting there for weeks. And I think that's a wonderful thing that they're doing.
And trucks are not like wasteful resident trucks. Their trucks are in good shape. To me, if all the garbage is picked up, I don't mind if they're here 2 extra days. Because I know Commissioner Kennedy, beauty is very important to you. And I think if this company at the same price, they're not charging us extra money. They charge, what the contract says is the price that they're paying. If they come out 2 extra times and want to split it up, I don't have a problem with a company that is willing to split it up and still give us our money worth and have all the garbage picked up. The ones that are not picked up is because residents are not paying attention and code is not enforcing what they need to be enforced. So I'm very happy with the split. I think it works better. We just need to do more better education with the residents. And I think it's time the residents are gonna be glad to, follow the rules. I've had residents that told me. So, yeah, I'm happy with this split.
Okay, Commissioner Gonzalez.
So, let me take these earphones off. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, yes, I hear you.
So in my business, there are a lot of times companies will come in and underbid other companies and get contracts. And then 3, 4, 6 months later come back and say, hey, by the way, this is not working out. And shame on the people that make that decision, because the people that make that decision should have known better. And I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with people and said, there's no way that this company can come and bid this in this fashion and it make financial sense. But it happens all the time. In this particular situation, I don't think that this company did this with this intent. Okay, this is my personal opinion. I'm certainly not happy that they told us one thing and now they're changing what they said. But I think that they really did not anticipate what they found when they got here. It is what it is. I personally don't have a problem with them being here 4 or 5 days a week. I don't have a problem with it because they're here half of the village and they're in the other half the other time. So I personally don't have a problem with it. I think that in my personal opinion, I think that they're doing a fantastic job. I've had 2 interactions with them where I've called them. They have no idea who I am, and I don't tell them who I am. I'm just a resident. So I just say, hey, listen, by the way, they call me right away. They react immediately, where as the previous company, I could send emails, calls, and whatever, and nobody called me back, nobody cared, and nothing happened. Every time, the 2 times that I've called these people, they have been super attentive, super nice, and they have reacted and taken care of it. So in this particular situation, I don't think that they came in with the intent in my other experience with my, in my business life, where people come with the intent of, hey, I'm going to underbid and then I'm going to change the deal. I don't think that they did this. I don't think that they came in with that intent, but I think that the reality is what it is. So I have no issue. I have no problem with them being here 4 or 5 days a week, whatever it takes, as smoothing the village in 2. So I don't have an issue with it, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, all right, to follow up on that. So you don't think they came in and sold the bill of goods?
No.
You think they came in afterwards and realized how big the job is?
Yes.
So why did they not know how big the job was before they bid on it? And you're saying that shame on the people who allow that to happen. So you're saying shame on us for allowing this to happen?
No,
We're just into a new relationship.
No, I'm saying that we don't even know the specs of the reality of what is taking place in the village. Keep in mind that the previous vendor that we had here never, like Mario, never completed the job, ever. There was always, every week there was issues. Every week there was a broken truck. Every week there was mistake. Every single week there was an issue.
We've had plenty of those in the past 2 months too. Of course we have.
We've had minor incidents. We've had minor incidents, and from my, oh, it's okay. Me or him?
People can't understand.
It's okay. Don't worry about that. So there have been incidents, and I do understand that, and there will always be incidents. But my understanding is, and from my perspective, and when I've called them, they've been super reactive. Hey, there was a miss. I had a miss the other day. The guy called me right away and said, I'm sorry, Mr. Gonzalez, we're going to go right over and take care of it. It was taken care of. That's been my experience. They didn't know who I was. I didn't say I'm Commissioner Art Gonzalez. I didn't say that. I just said I'm Art Gonzalez. I live here. And they came and took care of it. Hey, the previous company, I could call, I can text, I can email. They didn't care. So that has been my experience. Okay. We as commissioners have no idea the specs of what is being handled internally in this village. I think that they came in expecting one thing. I think that the reality is different. Okay, what they were being told and what they saw, perhaps it is different. But I certainly don't believe for a second, Mac, that they came here thinking, hey, we're going to underbid everybody and then we're going to change the deal. I don't think that that's the case. If I thought that was the case, then I would be 100%, with what you're thinking. But I don't think that's the deal. I don't think that that's.
Oh, just to be clear, am I muted? No. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that either. I'm just saying that what we were told is not what we're getting now. I also want to say that I have not had a single service issue, so I've had no reason to report anything. And I have not, so my service is perfect. The guys are great. They're trying to get out there.
Excuse me. I think Carlos would like to answer.
Okay, well, let me.
Carlos, would you like to speak?
Let me finish what I'm, okay, with all due respect, let me finish what I'm saying to Art here, and then Carlo can reply. So my personal experience has been great too, that's not the point. And I'm not suggesting that they come in and sold us a bill of goods and then, yank the rug out from underneath us. But I think it's very naive to think that a trash vendor like Great Waste did not know exactly what they were getting themselves involved in when they did this job. I think it's very naive to say they came in here and said, oh my goodness, it's so much more bulk than we thought it would be. It's a whole lot more garbage. They came, they looked, they knew. And the deal has changed. So I'm not happy about that, because while it seems to be that we're getting fewer complaints, I still hear plenty, but whatever, there's always going to be problems. I'm not that concerned with the complaints I get. And I hear that people get pretty good resolution. I've had some people say they've never heard back. Whatever, shit happens. Pardon my French. It happens, whatever. My point is that Biscayne Park was going to look a certain way with this vendor, and now it doesn't look that way. There's trash cans out all the time. And if everybody followed the rules exactly, trash cans are still out twice as much as they should be. And yard piles are out twice as much as they should be, because we have yard waste picked up twice a week. We have, but Art, we're only this big. Half that, the other half of the village is right there. I'm looking at it. You do because you right. So, okay, well, I do. I walk, I drive, I go around this village.
Go on for the next hour.
Yes.
Okay, I think that Carlo would like to speak.
I just wanted to clarify something.
Carlo?
There seems to be like we came in underhandedly and changed the deal. What happened was when we came out and Commissioner Kennedy, I'm not sure I could say anything to change your mind, but I can assure you that we did not come in here to change the deal. When we went out and we started to scope the work, there's a tremendous amount of bulk in your city, something I've never saw. I'm sure of looking at, you've seen my picture, right? I've been doing this for 40 years, long time. I didn't come into the city to make a relationship with you guys to start out on the wrong foot. So when I went back and told Mario, we decided, or Mario decided, I should say, that we would try. I told him, look, I'll give it a college try. Let me do it the 2 days a week, and split the city, and let's see how it goes. But let me just give you like some dynamics of the city. Monday and Tuesday, my trucks haul about 30 tons of garbage. On Thursday and Friday, we pick about 10 tons of garbage between both trucks. It's an extraordinary amount the disparity is extraordinary. You cannot do this, city commissioner, in 2 days. You can't do it in 3 days. And as much as we want to talk about Waste Pro didn't do the job, because quite frankly, nobody can do that job. For me to be able to do the job that you want, I'd have to have at least 3 trucks in the city both days. There's not enough money in this contract, not even close, to warrant that. And just to clarify things, if I wanted to, I could save a tremendous amount of money and try to do it your way, and you'll have another Waste Pro on your hands. So I'm trying to do the prudent thing for you guys. We're picking up the garbage, we're getting it done. I mean, the vast majority of people are happy. The vast majority of complaints that we get are resolved within 24 hours. The ones that are not are the people that have oversized bulk piles that are not in a hurry to get it resolved. So that's why you're seeing garbage out there. We work with Albert every day. I'm on the phone with Mario. I'm very active in your city. I don't think you're going to have that with any other vendor. I could say that with a lot of confidence.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on this, Carla, because I'm just going to repeat it. I have no problem saying this to you. I think it's disingenuous of what you're saying.
I am not disingenuous, sir. I am not disingenuous.
Feels disingenuous to me, because I don't feel, when you say you gave it the college try, giving it the college try would have been.
Sir, you know nothing about my business, sir. You're not qualified.
Here's what I know.
Excuse me, I think we've got to move on to another subject.
Here's what I know. We're not getting what we told we were going to get.
I apologize to the commission, but I'm being harassed here, being told I'm disingenuous. I've never even.
I apologize. I'm happy. I think we have to move on. Is there any other?
Yeah, actually, we need to talk about resident communications, Mario, because there is an enormous amount of confusion about what goes into trash cans, what's allowed to be recycled. There was miscommunication about the size of piles. I think we have not satisfactorily communicated to residents how trash works. And the people are so confused about the schedule. Look, I have a resident here as well. I never got the flyer about what day my trash is picked up. If I didn't get it, I'm not the only person who didn't get it. So I'm telling you, there's enormous confusion about all the details, and that needs to be addressed. And I understand there's a responsibility of the village and the vendor to making sure all of that is communicated properly, but it's not. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely. And towards that end, Carlo, Willie, and Amanda and I have been discussing last week other strategies that we can take a look at, what we can do to better inform residents, from revising and redoing the brochure to possibly doing a video of do's and don'ts. And you know, we'll look into the idea that you proposed even in your memo, Commissioner, with regards to removable stickers or something like that we can put on the bins, that talks about, hey, you know, in this bin, these are the things that you can recycle, these are not the things. So we'll definitely continue to look at and start addressing communications. To address Commissioner Samaria's comment with regards to code, yeah, I asked code when back in July, hey, you know, there's going to be a lot of confusion. Let's try to work. Let's try to give people benefit of the doubt, talk to them, try to educate them as much as possible. You know, and then as they saw an opportunity, there were people, not the majority, but again, there were people who took advantage of it, where they're putting things out for yard waste on a Wednesday. That's never been a day that we've allowed for people to put stuff out, right? They'll put it out on a Tuesday after it was picked up on Monday. And so there's people who are just taking advantage of the situation, making it worse, putting out, you know, things that they shouldn't. So we are actively going to go around and have already instructed code, hey, you know, we've given people warnings, we've talked to them, we've done door hangers. I've personally even walked and put door hangers on properties. Public Works has done it. Great Waste has done it. So it's not the first time. People understand what they're doing. The biggest change in the split schedule would be the Monday, Thursday pickup. That's the biggest change, and we've made sure that we've gone above and beyond to inform the residents, and we'll continue to do so to make sure that the communication is out there and as much as possible for residents.
Okay, I'd like to thank Carlos and Willie for coming.
Thank you, Mayor.
And we have a whole agenda. Thank you for coming, and don't be upset. We apologize. And
No,
I'm sure
I
it was not
apologize.
with any
I
malice.
was out of line. I do apologize.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor.
Okay, good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
I want to end this is why I want to end it real quickly. So look, we all want this to work, Carlo, Willie, Amanda, I don't see you on here. We all want this to work. We just want to make sure we're getting what we pay for as well. We never want to be unfair to a vendor, but I very much for sticking to an agreement. Now, I want to mention one little thing that Mario just brought up, and that is communications to residents. We don't have the majority of people who get emails. We don't have the majority of people who are on social media. But I will say that one thing that everybody has in common that uses your trash service is that they put their trash can out and they bring their trash can back in. So it seems to me there's a messaging opportunity right there on top of that can. If I went out to get my trash, my empty trash can, and there was a big bright yellow sticker on it that said, hey, Biscayne Park residents, some things we need to tell you, I can't not see that. So I'm saying is that's the one common denominator where you can achieve almost 100% messaging is right there on the trash can itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have old business, driveway swale, and Mario tells me that Art wants to lead that.
Is that right?
That's right.
Fantastic. That's me, right?
That's you. Last I looked, anyway.
I believe, Mayor, and I apologize if I said Commissioner Gonzalez, Last year, it feels like it's been that long for me, sorry. Last month, I think the commission did an amazing job going through and discussing the individual ideas that each commissioner had. As a matter of fact, it was the basis of how we operated the August budget workshop. Commissioner Kennedy is the one that kind of put that through. I don't know if we have the list of all the ideas with regards to the swale, but I know that each one of you in talking with me had various points that you all wanted to discuss with regards to swale. I know Commissioner Gonzalez, you had a couple ideas for the swale area, as well as Vice Mayor, Commissioner Samaria, and Mayor. You all had little things that you wanted to kind of talk about. I'm not sure if you want to continue the format that you guys did last month and just tackle one at a time, or if you just wanted to go commissioner by commissioner to address. And Commissioner Gonzalez is more than capable than starting off that conversation if that's the way you want to do it, Mayor.
Can I say something before Art jumps in here? There are two things here. One is driveway, the other one is swale right away. They're two separate things. And we got to a certain point. I know it's ridiculous. We got to a certain point in the driveway already, remember? If we tackled that now and just finished up that conversation, we could push swales to the next meeting. No, we didn't. No, tonight was supposed to be our last conversation about driveways. No, we did not. We did not finish the driveway conversation. We did not.
Didn't you think we finished it?
Okay, so where were we? Okay, we have to give direction to the attorney to have them work on something. So that's what we were gonna do tonight, is look at that list. We kind of walked through it and we agreed that we would all take a second look at it to make sure we were cool with that, have a final discussion, and that would turn into instruction for the attorney. So what I've done is the same spreadsheet that I used before where I put your yes, no votes. We can simply run down there, make sure we're all in agreement, see if there's any notes next to any item that we want to add, and then we give that to, I talked to Valerie today. Okay. She'll take that and we'll let her do her job with it. So we don't have to worry about how will it be written, where will it be in the code, nothing like that. We simply say, here's our intent, here's what we want, and she'll go work on it, and she'll come back and say, okay, here's how I put it together for you guys to achieve your intent.
Okay. So shouldn't we do driveways and swales all at once instead of just say, hey, Valerie, do driveways, and then go, hey, Valerie, now do swales? Why don't we just do driveways and swales?
I was just trying to get one part of it done to give her something to work on while we work on the rest.
I think we just get it all done, because if we're not done with driveways, we're very damn close to being done with them. So let's finish driveway.
Because we have some other stuff to do.
Okay, so let's finish driveway, let's finish swale, and then just give it to Valerie. That's what I would do. I don't know about the rest of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay. I have a spreadsheet right here.
Okay, do you have Gage's comments as well? Because I'll have to.
They're on back up to the agenda.
Find that.
So the list that we were working from is on the agenda as backup, and P&C sent its comments in, and ecology, I see Alex is here, and I think they wanted to present something as well.
Okay.
So should we start by hearing ecology on the topic?
Absolutely.
I mean, I pretty much talked to it when I gave the update. Not everybody was.
Did you go through what you wanted to from the email you sent us?
That was from the email, yeah.
I got that. I got it.
Go work.
Not much different.
Let's finish that.
Well, it sounds like Mario wants you to do it.
No. You have the list. Let's go through driveway. Let's go through whatever unfinished.
Okay.
And then let's go to swale.
I'm fine with that. I'm just saying that Mario asked you to do it.
No.
You want to do it?
Yeah, please. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Let's finish that. You have the list.
I'll just remind everybody that we've got 45 minutes. And we've got quite a few items left.
That's plenty.
I'm wondering if we shouldn't get to the tree thing first so we don't lose it.
I will absolutely agree with that 100%. I don't want to miss that.
Let's go deal, because we're on a deadline with tree. Let's get that one up and deal with the tree.
I'm good with that. Do we have to officially make a vote on that to change the agenda, or how does that work?
Okay, do you want to make a motion on that? Do we need a motion on the tree planting service?
Mayor, if I can present the item.
Okay, go ahead, Mario.
Thank you very much. So we had last month, Chairwoman Barbara Kuehl from Parks and Parkway Advisory Board with some concerns with regards to the quote that we received from SFM. As our village attorney pointed out during that discussion, we did have the option of going back and receiving multiple quotes for additional for the services that we were discussing. The commission did not vote or direct me to get new quotes, but in good faith and trying to do what's best for the village and hearing the conversation, not only from the chairwoman, but from our commission as well. We went back and Albert and I obtained quotes from the other, from all three services, because one of the things was we had new trees, and again, the board was adamant that they wanted watering within the price structure. And so when we added that, the numbers changed, right? And so we went from approximately $30,000 with SFM. SFM jumped up with 3 months of watering to $54,000. Country Bill came in at $43,000, which is the lowest bidder who is being recommended that we do. And then Superior, the third vendor, came in at $64,000, but that was for 12 months of watering. But they weren't able to get all of the trees, and some of the trees were just, you know, the prices for everything included was really out there. So Country Bill came in. Essentially, his watering is $350 a day for the trees. And so when you look at the schedule that he proposed of daily for 2 weeks, and then breaking that down, I think it is twice a week for up to 3 months, and then after 3 months as needed. The village, as we've discussed in the past, we have a 55-gallon tank for watering that we will use. It will be on staff to continue as needed to make sure that the watering continues. The price includes all the, not only purchasing the tree, but also all the costs associated with picking it up, installing it, driving it from the nursery over to where we're doing all of those type of things. One of the things I did look at is, could have the village done this ourselves, right? Just buy the trees outright and have our staff do it. We really can't. We'd end up spending about the same as what Country Bill, if not SFM, is proposing. And we would be reducing the labor that we have within a daily basis by about 3 people at a minimum. And it would take several days to do more, to do what any of these vendors can do in a shorter time period. So the recommendation before you tonight, because they're not the contracted vendor, is that you all can discuss and vote to have Country Bill purchase the trees, which would include a 1-year warranty, the Florida grade 1 trees with a 1-year warranty, watering for 3 months as he prescribed, and for the installation and doing all of that. So that is what I wanted to bring back to you, simply because if it was SFM, that was the lowest, I wouldn't have to come back. But because it's a different vendor, then I wanted to bring this back so that we can vote on that and authorize staff to enter into that agreement.
Thank you, Mario. Can we have a motion on that to pass that, or does everybody agree? I'm sorry?
You need a motion and then we need comments.
Okay, do a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept Country Bill to do the trees at 43,300.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, does everybody agree?
I have some questions, please.
Go ahead,
Couple
Commissioner
of things,
Kennedy.
Mario. First of all, I just have a note here. You're gonna make sure that our claims for last year's grant are taken care of with Country Bill, right?
Yes, sir. Staff is actively
Okay.
working on that.
Okay. Very good. I don't want to lose those trees. So last year Country Bill charged us 30 and this year it's 43. And last year they included a year of watering and this year it only includes 3 months of watering. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it went up $13,000 and we're getting 1/4 the amount of watering. Mario, are you confident that your guys will be able to take care of the rest of the watering during dry season especially?
Well, we could, again, the quote is, I believe it's $350 a day for additional watering. So whether we want to contract the vendor to keep doing that after the initial 3 months, that's on the village, if there's funding for it. If not, then, you know, there's no other choice. Our staff is going to have to do it to be able to maintain those trees.
Okay, so my concern is that the trees thrive. I don't want them to merely survive. I want them to thrive. So somebody will keep an eye on these. And if it seems like we're not keeping up with the watering, then you would come to us, or you would, if you could by yourself, or come to us, however that works. Make sure, I just want to make sure they get water.
Yeah,
whether it's
absolutely.
us or we have to pay some extra money. Once they're in, we can't let these trees die. So it's you and Albert will keep an eye on that for us, right?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. And if we water ourselves for these trees are guaranteed for 1 year. They're only watering for the first 3 months. If we take it upon ourselves to water those trees for 9 months and we fail and those trees die, are they still guaranteed by Country Bill for the full year, even if they die because we don't water them?
Yes, sir. It's still under warranty for that year.
Okay, well then I guess it's all on them, but we still don't want the trees to die. We still don't want to deal with that.
No, we want them to survive as long as possible.
Exactly. And if we did it ourselves, I mean, I know you're saying for the same amount of money we could do it ourselves, but that's a very different number than it was last year. But we wouldn't have a guarantee on trees if we planted them ourselves. So it's not
no,
exactly apples to apples.
Yeah, and it's not because, you know, you'd have to take into account the wear and tear on our flatbed vehicle.
Exactly.
They would have to do a minimum of about 6 to 10 trips down to the nurseries, which are usually, I believe where Country Bill has found some of these is either further up north in Broward or all the way down in Homestead. So, you know, that's just in travel, that's a day by itself. And then it's going to take a few days to do plantings, right? Because it's going to take about, you know, anywhere between 2 to 3 hours just to do one tree. And we're talking about, you know, 60 trees. So when you start adding up the hourly rates, the material, you know, this is where you say, hey, this is better. This same money is better spent doing it with someone who does this on a regular basis. They have equipment. They can do all these things very quickly.
And they're guaranteed for a year. So,
correct.
Sorry, I lost my place here on my little spreadsheet. Oh God.
Okay, can we vote on this now?
No, I'm sorry. I had something I needed to ask you. Hold on a second. Oh, I know what it was. Is this money coming out of fiscal 21 budget or fiscal 22, Mario?
21 budget, sir.
21. And do you have that extra money in there?
We currently have $13,000. It's not extra. It was previously budgeted. Good foresight between the advisory board and the commission. There's $47,000 remaining in there for this work, and we'd be using 43.
For tree planting, none of that is for anything else, not for tree removal and the other things in that budget.
No, there's more within there's more within the budgeted line items, but money's already being allocated for any tree removals. I'm just talking about the tree plantings themselves.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not skipping ourselves on those tree removals that really need to come down. Every
No, sir.
hurricane that flies past us, I worry about those trees. Okay, thanks. I'm all good on this.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move the question. All in favor of Country Bill for the tree planting service, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we passed that. We're going to talk about the short-term vacation rentals, Airbnb. Commissioner Samaria?
Did you want to go back to driveways and swales, Mayor? Or
No, I
did you want
thought we were going to
continue?
finish the other and then go back to driveways and swales.
Absolutely, no problem.
Well, that's not what we said. Judy asked if we could move trees up because we wanted to make sure we didn't miss trees. Judy, you didn't plan for us to continue on the agenda, did you? You wanted to hit the trees and then go back to what we were doing.
We got about 30 minutes left.
I think we could do the driveway portion in 30 minutes easily and hand that over to Valerie. If we don't get all of the swale stuff done, we can pick that up next meeting, but at least we get a big chunk of it done. And we can give Valerie something to work on for us.
Does everybody want to go back to the driveways and swales? Does everybody agree with that? Talk.
I thought we finished
driveways. I thought we were only doing swale.
Okay, then let's finish the driveways and swales.
Okay, so Mario, do you want me to do this? We got a little confused here on process. You asked Art to do this.
You mentioned swales for me, but we're still in driveways, right? You said we haven't finished driveway. Yeah, finished.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you can unmute yourselves, because I'm only picking you up through the mayor's microphone.
Okay, so guys, do you all have in front of you the driveway list that we worked from last time? It was on back up on the agenda. Judy, you have it? Dan, you have it? Is everyone ready for this? Can I jump in? I think they're down there trying to catch up. You ready?
Is this what you're, I'm
Go
sharing
ahead.
my screen, Commissioner? Is this what
Yes.
you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay, can you
Yeah,
see it or
yeah,
do you need me to
looking for it.
zoom in a little bit more? Okay.
I'm working on mine, so I'm gonna make notes right on this.
Okay, I'll leave this up so that anyone can follow along if you'd like.
Okay. Okay, so guys, I will go topic by topic. You can see what we talked about last time. If anybody changes their mind, we can make a final decision. That's it, Dan.
It doesn't say all yes and no's on here, so we already did it.
Dan, is it on the screen? You okay, Dan? I mean, are you looking at it? I want to make sure you're looking at it. Nope, we're not. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna run by real quickly, and if there's any notes or anything that's additional, we need to tell Valerie about this. Now's the time to do it, because she will take, I'll send this to her and everybody, and that will be what she works from. So the first thing was changing the coverage to 40% maximum. This is for driveways only, we're talking about 40% maximum. We were all in uniform agreement on that. Is everyone still good on that? That one's easy, good. Okay. A maximum overall driveway size regardless of percentage. P&Z did not agree with that. Ecology chimed in and they seemed to think was that you guys said you thought there should be a maximum coverage as well. And the whole point of this is, again, we probably can't point to an example right now of someone that could or would do anything beyond 40%. That would be ridiculous. But we do have properties in the village that can be purchased, torn down. All it takes is someone to buy 2 properties, put up a massive house, which they could. The houses are set back far, and now 40% of a massive front yard is it's like an airport runway. So you could have a ridiculous amount of impervious material in someone's front yard if a maximum isn't set. I'm not suggesting that we put some really small maximum that is, it impedes anyone from putting in a nice sized driveway at their big home on, one of the big lots that we have. But you have to think ahead of how bad could this go. Imagine if imagine the 2 empty lots over here on Griffin that are sitting there empty right now, where David Coviello used to live and where that abandoned construction site is. side by side. Someone buys them. Imagine if they said, yeah, but imagine if they set that house way back and they can put it, so all I'm saying is it could, and these are the things you want to look at, is like how badly could the code be followed? How could the code be followed and be really bad in terms of, I'm concerned about not just aesthetics, I'm concerned about the amount of impervious material being added to this village and the world, quite frankly. Does anyone else share that concern? Anyone else share my concern there? Or we'll move on. Judy, Jenny? Okay. 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 Requiring one uniform driveway material for the entire driveway. So when someone does a driveway, it has to be one material, one material or unifying design. Yep, everyone's still good with that?
But what about so many driveways now? Are those squares with the?
Still one uniform. It's
One
still the same.
design.
It's still one unifying design.
Yeah, as long as it's not like brick, cement, asphalt, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, because Jenny, that is a unified design. The concrete with the spaces in between them is one design. Okay, entire driveway must be replaced and upgraded at the same time. So if the driveway is being done, it all has to be done. No partial jobs. Okay, everyone's good on that, Jenny? Yeah, Jenny?
I think it's
No, it's just regardless of the percentage. If a driveway is being done, the entire driveway must be replaced and upgraded at the same time. Anybody else going to change their mind too? No, I'm just going through this. Just going through it. I don't let everyone have their opinion here.
We already gave our opinion.
That's a unifying design. Yeah. So if something needed to be replaced, though, he would have had to replace it. Yeah. Remove all the old material when the parking is improved. We all agreed on that. Everyone cool with that? Disallowing milled asphalt. Everybody was in agreement on that. Anyone change their mind? Okay.
I'm sorry, Dan. What?
You're saying everybody's agreement.
Everybody said yes on that.
You said yes on that one, Dan. Disallowing milled asphalt as a driveway material. Milled asphalt.
From the top all the way down here, I see all those on mine.
Okay, but it said yes.
Dan, you said yes to it that last time, but you can say no if you want to.
Whatever my answer is.
Okay, I was the only one that said no to this. Whether we should continue to allow regular asphalt as an approved driveway material. P&Z, to be clear, said yes, we should. Ecology, I think, said they would prefer that we don't allow asphalt as a driveway material. I think it's a really bad thing. Anyone change their mind, or is that okay? Considering additional materials as approved driveway surfaces. Right now it says gravel, asphalt, pavers, turf block, concrete, and brick. P&Z, if I recall what they said in their notes, someone can double check me. They were fine with that. Ecology wanted us to consider, what do they call it, Alex? The grid, true grid. Yeah, P&Z said no to that. They think it's covered already in the turf block that we allow. It's the same as the turf block idea. It's just, it's more gravel and less in between material because it uses a plastic thing. I'm completely fine with it. I think it's a very modern kind of a thing to do. So is everyone still good with that?
Wait, I'm sorry, are you adding another?
Yeah, I'm gonna put
material
it, so I'm gonna put a note here. I'm gonna put a note here. So what is that called, Alex? True grid. I'll put down True Grid, Valerie, and you can figure out what it is. That True Grid's a brand name. It's a plastic grid that holds gravel. A la turf block. Okay, skip that. Okay, better define gravel. So ecology thinks it should be 3/4 of an inch or larger. We all thought that gravel should be better defined to include no limestone and to cover gravel size. So is everyone in agreement to no limestone? That was a P and Z suggestion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So everyone agrees to.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. So no
See, this is why I
limestone,
wanna
and what
clarify
about the
that.
size?
Okay, so that's the
but
next thing I was gonna get to. 3/4 of an inch or larger. So ecology suggested 3/4 of an inch or larger. I did some Googling, not that that claims to be the expert on this. And they say 1/2 to 3/4 inch to an inch are the preferred sizes in terms of water drainage. So the smaller the stone, the less water drainage you get because it compacts down really tight. So what I read is 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch is preferred over smaller rocks. Ecology saying 3/4. You can say whatever you want, yeah. Well, no, P and Z will. They require you to put samples in. Art, this is what you do when you're going to change the code of ordinances. It is absolutely enforceable. Have you ever put a gravel driveway in Biscayne Park? I did, and they made me bring gravel in and show it to them. Yes. They asked for material samples. It's in all the. Alex sat on P and Z. Do you guys ask for material samples when you approve things? I showed up with samples. Okay. So what size do you guys want to do? Ecology said 3/4. You guys want to go with 1/2? Oh, well, we can't make the rock. I think we changed the grandfather. I'm okay with 1/2 inch. 3/4 inch is pretty big. I'm okay with 1/2 inch. You okay with 1/2 inch, Art? Well, we can enforce anything we want to. I'm going to put 1/2 inch or larger. Okay. Well, that's a little defeatist, but okay. Disallow crushed limestone. We already said that. So yes, we're disallowing crushed limestone. Allowing AstroTurf as decorative and trim only. We all said yes to that. Everyone's still cool with that? Okay. We all said yes that we need to better address temporary guest parking. So we all said we thought that should be addressed somehow. So if we say that, if we tell Valerie we need to better address guest parking, she's going to want some guidance here on exactly what it is that we would want her to do. So. It already is. Okay. Well, it was on here. You all voted yes to it. So. I'm just pointing out that you all said yes to it. That was you wanted to do something better. Okay. Then I'm changing this to a no because there's nothing to change. So the answer is no. You can do whatever you want to do. You can tell them they can park on their front lawn if you wanted to. You can tell them they can park on their front grass as far as we want. Okay, but I'm saying we could. So that's what this is. So we just want to leave guest parking on the swale. Is that what we're saying? Leave on swale as is. I think it says parallel to street. I think it says. She'll check on that for us. Okay, the required minimum number of spaces in the code. So Alex spoke to this, and I have to say something about this as well. The notion that our code would require you to put in a minimum amount of asphalt on your property is just so bizarre to me. Now, I want to mention something. Scarlett Hammonds, who serves on our P&Z board, you probably all have met her if you've gone to a meeting or you've Zoomed or something. She's a code writer. She does this for a living. She has for a long time. When P&Z discussed this, she said, I have never seen this in a code before anywhere. She said, I don't even know why this would be in a code. This makes no sense. She said, I've never seen it. This is a really strange thing. Were you at that meeting, Alex? Were you still on P&Z then? She was the one who brought it up. And she said, there's something really weird in our code. Never saw it. Very strange. Don't know why it would have been here. But the notion that we would require someone to put in a certain amount of asphalt on the yard is very bizarre to me. For example, let's say there's some little old lady who lives by herself and she has a car that she drives once a week to Publix, right? And it's time for her to replace her driveway, okay? And she has a little ribbon driveway that she parks her car on and she's happy with it. But she has a 3-bedroom house. And she'd be required now with this code to put in how many parking spaces, Alex, in a 3-bedroom house? 3, yeah. And if her, and for guests too, there's a chart that it goes by. It's in code. Plus a guest parking, plus guest parking, plus 1 for guest parking. So here's my point. If somebody only wants to have parking for 1 car in their yard, who are we as a village to tell them, you have to put in more parking? Right. Then code writes them a ticket, says you can't park on your grass. You have to. Okay, then call code and report them. Give me your name and address and report them. But look, the whole point is the idea that we tell people they have to, guys, this is important because we're telling people they have to put more asphalt or concrete down. They have to put more driveway material down. They have to cover more, and they have to spend money that they maybe don't have, Judy, or they don't want to spend. But who is the village to tell me? Dan and I are a 1-car family. Now, I have parking for like 4 cars on gravel, but who is the village to mandate a minimum amount of parking? That's a commercial building. That's an entirely different thing.
There's a reason that you tell them. We're building. It's the same thing as for a house. If you have a 5-bedroom house, okay, I'm sorry, it makes no sense to have a 5-bedroom.
Sorry, commissioners, we can't hear you. Your mics are off.
My mic off? Your mic's off.
What's going to happen eventually is that you have a 5-bedroom house with 1 parking space. They're going to park. Where are they going to park? They're going to park on the swale. They're going to park on their neighbor's house. They're going to park somewhere. And you can have that. So I understand what you're saying. Okay, in that case, let's send code out and then code is going to enforce it. And code is going to find them and blah, 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 blah. Mac, let's be realistic, okay? That's not happening. It's not realistic. If you have, I say, in my personal humble opinion, for every 2 bedrooms, you have to have 1 parking space. If you have a 4-bedroom house, you have 2 parking spaces. If you have a 6-bedroom house, you have 4 parking spaces. That's realistic. That's the way it should be. Now, whether you guys want to change it or you guys are happy with things the way they are, that's fine. But that's the truth. That's what's going to happen. Period. End of conversation. I know my parking. Yes, sir.
Why do you think that no other cities have anything like this in their code?
I don't know.
I
don't care about it.
Yeah, no, if other jurisdictions do have minimum parking requirements for single-family homes. I personally never seen that for bedroom food, but they do have for single-family homes. It would have 2 parking spaces, something like that. Not necessarily. It is a minimum requirement.
Valerie, can you how other people address it? Because ours is based on bedroom.
No, I haven't seen that in particular, but that there is a minimum requirement. There's typically.
Well, we have a minimum requirement too, that you have to have approved parking, you have to have an approved parking surface on your property. So we do have a minimum also. There has to be a place to park a car on your property. That we do have.
On an approved parking surface, not your property, right?
So we, to be clear, we do have minimum, without that, we still have minimum requirements because we require you to have an approved parking surface on your property, not on the swale, on your property. Right, Valerie?
Yes, no, I was just indicating what you said, but no other jurisdiction has been making requirements, and we do have specifically, for example, in Sunny Isles Beach, where we represent, they have for single family homes, you have to have at least 2 spaces. So there are instances, it's
But it's not based on
not tied to bedrooms, but there is, it does exist.
Well, the fact that the bigger your house, that we require you to put it in is very strange to me. Does anyone have any interest in changing that in some way?
No.
Anybody, Dan? You have anything on that? Yes, per current code.
No. Excellent.
That's what I said.
Let's extend the meeting.
No.
45 minutes.
No, Dan's leaving.
No.
They're leaving, 11 o'clock.
Do you guys want to finish this or just want to adjourn the meeting and we'll pick it up another day? Because I hear more conversation from some of you about trying to get done than trying to get anything done well. And it's really frustrating. Judy, and you're one of them.
Mac, here you go again. At this hour
You're
of the
right, here I go
day,
again,
you
Judy.
get nasty. And
Let's
at
go.
this hour of the day,
And
it's
you get
time to
lazy.
adjourn.
I get
the meeting.
nasty and you get lazy.
I have never been called lazy in my
Please
life.
concentrate.
It's time to call
We have
the
15
meeting.
minutes, 14 minutes now. That's 30 seconds.
Make a
off of
motion.
14 minutes.
I'll make a motion to
No.
adjourn the meeting.
Motion is made to adjourn the meeting. Do we have a second?
You guys really won't finish this one. What a joke.
Do we have a second? I'll second it.
You're dragging it on, Mac. It's already been. determined.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
No. No. I came to do a job. I say.
Yes, you're opposed.
They're really hard to walk out the middle of something.
We're never going to finish this
So if
tonight.
we're not gonna finish it today, when are we gonna finish it?
We're not going to finish it
Ever?
tonight. No, we're not going to finish it
We
tonight.
have 15 minutes left.
Did you get a vote on that motion?
We did this, we did it. I mean, we're going to this. You're gonna do it, let's get it over. We're dragging stuff on and on and on. We've been voting on this last commission meeting. I was under the impression we were
Let's
going
move
well.
on the floor.
Let's move, guys.
Jenny, there's a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting.
Yes,
Finish
this,
the vote.
11 o'clock is when we're gonna adjourn the meeting.
There you go. Dan has spoken.
It's
Get this
3
thing
to 2,
done.
guys.
Once and all,
We're moving on.
All right, move on.
Here we go.
Let's go, man.
Okay, landscape edges, including sod of all new driveways, no bare gravel or soil along edges.
Yes, keep it going.
Everyone good with that? still?
Yes,
Okay, everyone's still good with allowing painted concrete?
Yes.
yes.
Are you guys gonna specify what kind of colors?
Did we, I don't think we specified colors, Mac, did we? The colors on the concrete, we didn't specify colors.
Did
We
Valerie?
didn't say that they
She
can't
asked.
have it.
She asked to specify, if we specified colors. I don't remember we did.
Right.
We
We
didn't.
can't approve colors on driveways, just like we can't approve them on houses, Valerie, is that true?
Why?
can't require a permit for painting a house, but you can't have a color palette.
So could we have a color palette for driveways?
Yeah, you should,
Love that.
just like you can a house. You can, communities have a right to say the colors that houses are allowed to be painted.
I would love that.
So I think that we
And
can.
then first the recommendation should be that that's modified, it can't be something that's subjective and, amorphous,
Yeah.
and like, oh.
Terracotta, gray,
yeah.
So we could put together a color palette that has to be one of these colors.
absolutely, yeah, terracotta, gray.
Or
Have
we
you seen
can
other
add-
communities do
My,
that?
my driveway in Key Largo is terracotta
I
painted
like
Because we
terracotta.
have some.
with stamped concrete. It looks great.
We can ask P and Z to do it.
I think that's a good
Not
idea.
gray. Gray looks so
Guys, if we agree to limit it to a palette, we could ask P and Z to come up with a palette.
That would be perfect.
Right, a palette.
You guys agree with that?
I agree with that. I think that that's a great idea.
Okay, we'll do that. Require asphalt driveways to be sealed as part of regular maintenance.
Yes.
Absolutely. Indubitably.
Okay, anybody have any interest in having a goal for village-wide compliance over time?
No.
Okay. Okay, addressing tree roots. That's the thing that we all said no, I was the one that said yes, it just. Tree roots being messed with when people put in driveways on swales.
If it's in their private property, it's really nothing.
Can't do anything about
But it's
that.
not their private property, that's the point.
You're talking about swales.
Oh, I'm sorry, which is driveway?
You're
Yeah.
talking about driveways is different. Driveways,
Okay, okay.
swales is a different subject.
Understood.
Yeah, driveways is not really much you can do. Sorry. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, and I hate to say it,
I'm gonna make a note here. We'll consider it for swales when we have that.
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, allowing wheel stop. We all said
No.
no on that.
Hell no.
Not all over the place. Same with raised borders. We have some of those too.
No, that sucks.
Dan, Judy, stick with that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. This is the big one. Disallow construction that causes water to drain back into the road. We're on line 25. Everyone's still good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, filling it around the driveways properly, so we don't have those raised driveways. We also yes on that. Okay. Maximum number of driveways per resident. We also know on that one. Requiring all non-parking areas to be organic. We were all unanimous on that one.
100%.
Okay. Replace sod after removal of any parking surface. So when a parking surface comes up and it's not going back down. Okay, any interest in providing financial incentives for permeable driveways?
No.
This is
No.
something that ecology
No.
has to consider.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, you said yes last time.
Did I?
Yeah.
I changed my mind.
Okay, so the answer is no. And,
So did I.
okay, and we're grandfathering in existing driveways until they're 50% deteriorated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay, so a couple of things changed there. We made a couple of notes, and what I'll do is I'll email that to Roseanne. I'll email it to you, and then you send it to Valerie. Okay, and then guys, we'll pick up the swell portion of this at the next meeting.
Well, we got plenty of time. We still have
Okay.
5 minutes.
There's a special commission meeting Thursday.
Jenny, could we just, to get it out of the way, that's where it doesn't come back at the next commission meeting, your discussion.
Get
on
what out of the
Halloween-
way?
the Halloween thing out of the way, since you brought up for discussion. That's where it doesn't get brought up next meeting.
Mac's gonna argue it. What? Nothing. We've got 5 minutes. Let's go through the agenda. Is that we have a meeting on Thursday, 6 o'clock. We have the 9/11 20th anniversary on September 11th. September 29th, we have a second budget hearing.
September what? Oh, 29.
September 29th,
Oh, okay. I think it's the 22nd.
29th.
I'll be here. I won't be here the
So
22nd.
look, guys, before we wrap this up, this Halloween holiday, thing, we can do this in 2 minutes. We have time to do it.
We've
Like
got
I said,
that
I-
finished,
just get-
right?
it's
Driveway?
just- No, just,
Will you do it?
Yeah, do it.
We never took a vote on it or anything.
Yep. Everybody in favor of passing the driveway?
no.
It's for Halloween.
This is for Halloween.
Halloween.
You had to
Okay.
move the item for the discussion for Halloween. Just get it out of the way.
Okay, the only thing I wanted to discuss, Commissioner Kennedy, is that you did a good job last year with having a committee, having a citizens committee to do it because, and I want to make sure it's going to be done this year
Yeah,
again,
that's in there.
because our office has too much work and cannot do
Did you
it.
read the agenda item? It's in there that we would appoint, we each appoint somebody, each one, there's
I just
deadlines
want to
and
make
everything.
sure it's
Okay,
done that
so I'm gonna
way.
make a motion that we pass my agenda item for Halloween and Holiday Decoration Awards.
Amen.
Okay,
Can I second that?
all in favor? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay. Meeting adjourned. I will see you Thursday at 6 o'clock.
Art seconded it.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Jenny.